as we do get the stream back up and running and in front of all of you guys. I had a little bit of a tech blow up from our side, but that's okay. We're going to be back. And thankfully, you did not miss any of the magic action as these players were working on sideboards. Don't have those in front of me, but if we want to talk a little bit about the sideboarding action between these two players, we can start with Dykeman, who does have access to, I'm going to read through this real quick, 1 Blot Out, 1 Cut Down, 4 Duress, 2 Gix's Command, 1 Harvester of Misery, 1 Nowhere to Run, 1 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Terra Sunder, 1 Trickle Throwback, and 1 Vivian Reed. Real quickly, what do we want?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot going on there that we could be bringing in as Dykeman. Our interaction is going to be pretty important, right? So cut down is something that we saw we needed in that game to sort of even stay alive. The extra turn before we really quickly die, we're going to probably want that here as well. Harvester Mystery kind of doing a similar thing. You know, I expect this cheap interaction to come in, but we might also see some cards like Scavenging Ooze, where normally there's something that you bring in like for a graveyard deck. Well, here can become kind of big, gains a little life. And I imagine we're going to trim some of our top end for Dykeman. You know, cards like Vraska, Betrayal Stinger is something that you see some players in Golgari use as a combo kill, not for Dykeman, just a value card here, and not really what these games are about. So what Dykeman's going to look to do is make his deck a lot more lean and efficient and fight over those early interactive cards.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Going over to Theodore's sideboard very quickly. Once again, we got 2 Lithomantic Barrage, 3 Paw Patch Formation, 4 Questing Druid, 2 Scorching Shot, and 4 Torch of Tower sideboard we've seen before because Theo mushed his top 8 match. What do we want here against the Golgari deck?
Yeah, so, I mean, once again, we saw this before where we talked about Theo brings in these Questing Druids when the games can get a little bit more grindy, and we saw that happen with the top 8 match. We're going to probably see that again here. Theo going to have a bit more interaction. Our opponent has a lot of powerful 1-for-1s and a lot of strong threats that can take over the game. So I imagine we'll want something along those lines. But besides that, you know, it's really going to depend on what Theo thinks we need to be cut from our deck. As it looks like our players are actually ready. So enough about the sideboard. Let's get down to our feature match area.
Get down directly to the action. Hopefully Theo, you know, will give us more action. As exciting as it is to watch this Gruul deck absolutely run over everything in its path, you know, and it does get it done very quickly. We're going to have a very quick finals if all our matches start looking like that. But nonetheless, here we go. We are going to be underway, it looks like, between these two players. And yeah, I mean, whatever. With Theo being on the play for all of this, it's hard to imagine playing anything else in Standard. I made that comment to you kind of while we were down. This has been such a dominant performance from Theo. It really does leave you wondering why you would ever do anything else. It's an incredible Gruul deck in the hands of Theo Jung.
Yep, and we see that there with cut down on the turn 1 Monetary Swift Spear has, you know, out the door blazing. Excuse me there. A little bit of a misstep. There's a higher claw. It's a really in-demand job right now, Drake, is the claw, you know? So we'll have to see that here. As we are fixing some things on our side there, we'll be able to get the match a little bit more clearly to you in a second. But we are going to be able to see it for you perfectly, and that's what matters, is go for the third, hits the claw. And this is what Dykeman is looking for here in the early turns. We are trying to hit a spot where we can just interact, play a threat that stabilizes, and work well from there.
Okay, are we back? Yeah, sorry. I'm having a little bit of tech issues now, it would appear. So let me go ahead and try to get that fixed very quickly. My apologies to everyone at home as I am recovering myself. Let's see if I can't get this up and running.
And speaking of recovering, so is Dykeman doing well in this tournament as Overlord of the Hauntwoods has hit the battlefield and it gave us the Aurora token. Now we're going to cast another one as Theo didn't have much to do. We've drawn 1 too many lands in a row there for Theo Jung, and we're looking to get this Manifold Mouse offspring here in a second, as that at least
there we go.
We talked about it here. So that's going to give us the second mouse in the passing of the turn. Back to Dykeman. Cards like Aklazot's Deepest Betrayals in Dykeman's deck, but I think in hand it's just all lands, Drake. Found important.
This is the spot we're trying to get to, right? We're attacking with Overlord of the Hauntwoods here, and you know, at this point, we're starting to get more triggers. We get Harvester as well to clean all that stuff up. Theo seems to move very cleanly there, but I can't imagine he likes having no board over and over again. Living to this point is what Steven was trying to do in game 1. Wasn't able to do it. Now that he is, I mean, this Gruul deck can grind, but maybe not here, as here comes more creatures trying to slog through these Overlords and Harvesters.
Yep, and we're seeing Theo sort of just trying to get the board presence. Has a little bit of interaction in hand with Scorching Shot that can be used to clear one of these Overlords. But, you know, Dykeman has the mana, has it up the Beanstalk. You know, that's going to allow Dykeman to move through his deck a lot. And we have Fountain Port. Oh, and Gix's Command. We're going to pick it up.
Yeah, that's going to do it. Okay, quick games on both sides. I think really demonstrating what's going on in this matchup. Either Theo needs to get it over with very quickly, which his deck obviously can do a very good job of, but or Steven's going to take care of things very, very quickly. So with that, I mean, there's your game 2. We had a quick game 1, a quick game 2, and over to a game 3 we're going to go of our first match. Remember, this is the best 2 or 3 matches, so even if this is over quickly, it's not all done. There's a lot more to do. The question is, how many matches are we going to end up with? Are we going to see all 3 formats? But either way, a game 3 in this match nonetheless, and where most importantly, potentially, Theo's going to be on the play.
Yeah, and that's the big part going in here. We're seeing the difference. When Theo's on the play, we're able to build up a little bit, right? We got underneath all these removal spells. And then, with Dykeman on the play, he is able to just sort of one for one by the time, have a moment where I kind of need to pray there's no Screaming Nemesis. Hits on that, can't have it all the time, right? And now we're going to start playing these very big, powerful cards. And that's what Dykeman's deck's looking to do, right? Interact, play a card that impacts the board, and then continue doing that in whichever pattern works best for you for the remainder of the game. And that's why this Golgari deck is so different than what we've seen from the normal Golgari decks, where they're a little leaner, low to the ground, more like traditional mid-range decks. This is more like a traditional control deck from Dykeman here, as our players are shuffling up here for game number 3. We'll have to see, being on the play, can that matter? And cards like Innkeeper's Talent, giving stuff like Ward 1, make it so Dykeman's mana is a little awkward.
Yeah, 100%. And I do like you really highlighting that this isn't a mid-range deck. Traditional Magic heuristics leave you believing that mid-range decks are good against aggro decks. That's the reason to do that instead of playing a control deck, right? You split the difference. That way you can do enough early to stop the aggro decks, but you could still be aggressive enough to get underneath the control decks. That's kind of the dynamic between high-level archetypes in most cases. In this case, it's not really a mid-range deck. You would expect the mid-range deck to be pretty good against aggro. In this case, I'm not sure that that's true. You are looking to go a little bit bigger. You're looking to go over the top, and that does leave you a little open to the aggro decks, especially on the play. So highlighting really, this is a big mana deck. This is a control deck. I think an important part of the equation when you talk about this matchup.
Yep, and speaking of important part of the equation, let's check out next year's events real quick, as our players are sideboarding a little bit here, different on the play and draw for us. We have 4 events coming up next year. If you want to join us at Champs, this is how you do it. You win a showdown, you get directly invited to our championship event like we're having going on this weekend, with over $30,000 in prizes. Pro Tour invite to the next year's champ, free entry to all the next year events if you're MVP. Take a look on your screen. We're coming to all these places: Chicagoland in February, Madison in March, Chicagoland again in May, and Indianapolis in June. We're going to announce the rest of our events very soon here, so make sure to check out that. And make sure to follow us here on Twitch. That way you don't miss any of the action going on. We will be streaming all these events next year, so we cannot wait to have that with you. It's been an awesome year, but we still have some more Magic to be played before that is going to be figured out.
Yeah, 100%. And, obviously there's a little bit of format updates, some shakeups that may be on the horizon as well. I know a lot of people are anticipating that. And, it's really exciting to me to have this event as kind of the final send-off for that. And, of course, it wouldn't be a series if there wasn't more Magic to come. So if you, weren't able to make it out this year, you weren't able to get it done this year, don't worry. You're going to have more opportunities in 2025 is where that starts. And you're going to get the formats very shortly. But either way, you can start planning your travel. And, it's the NRG series. You know where to expect us. You've seen us before. And at this point, they're going to be good events. So make your way out, qualify, and that way we can be covering your match here maybe next year at the 2025 championship. But speaking of the 2025 championship, look at that. There's your 2024 Series Champion trophy. You can see what's on the line there, as well as a Pro Tour invite and the 2025 championship invite. So one of these 2 players, if you do make it out to those events, is going to be present at the 2025 championship, and you can be the one to take them down. Will it be Dykeman on the back-to-back, or Theodore Jung, the kind of the boogeyman of this event, at least if the MVP, Garrick Alford, is to be believed? A lot of eyes on Theo. His year that he has had, not just on the NRG series, but across all of Magic, has gotten quite a bit done on the Pro Tour circuit as well. So, really kind of this battle between 2 of the best going on right now. Copper Line Gorge into the Claw, the all-important Claw that you mentioned, Higher Claw, the 1/2 deployed. Kind of off flavor for a Gruul Mice deck, but, we'll allow it.
Yeah, just a very strong card, especially, there aren't a ton of control decks here, but that's a great one where you can just sink your mana, grow the Higher Claw, and push a little bit of damage. As it looks like Dykeman's trying to figure out, how do I want to sequence my mana here given the Higher Claw, and it's not going to fight over. And it looks like we might be doing a Duress here. trying to hit maybe something like an Innkeeper's Talent.
Yeah. Starting off on the duress, kind of interesting to see. Not a card we talk too much about. And this is the downside to bringing in duress. This is a deck that has 22 creatures in it, 22 lands, which really only leaves 16 cards, at least in the main deck, that it hits. Now, you'd be expecting some potentially powerful sideboard cards that you're looking to get with it as part of the equation, but bricking is tough.
What if we had this Innkeeper's Talent? That's pretty good.
Oh, no! The top Innkeeper's Talent is the follow-up? Are you kidding? Can't Thoughtseize the top of the deck. That's true for Theo as well, who does find Innkeeper's Talent, the powerful enchantment class off the top. All that text that Steven wishes was in hand last turn.
Yeah, and Dykeman knows every card in Theo's hand. You see him start to cast a cut down here. He's thinking maybe I need this for an Emberheart Challenger, but what if he draws another spell, gets prowess, and it lives? So Dykeman's trying to think about this right now and how is he going to maneuver as we see Theo's friends and teammate Dom and Andrew in the background, both not being able to make it to this spot, but had great finishes in the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we mentioned it earlier. 3 out of your entire team being in the top 4 is an absurd stat. And now, Dykeman, kind of the boogeyman for that, just shutting all that down. Now it needs to do it one more time, but a whiff duress is not a way to start things off. And Dykeman, I think, more or less correctly giving a lot of thought to his turn 2. This is really... this is the tough spots. A lot of the players really start to rush on turn 2. How many options can you have? Well, when it comes to playing against all these mana creatures and someone as talented as Theo, you have a lot of options. And it's going to be Llanowar Elves and Cut Down.
Yep. I think I like this from Dykeman. Let's just get out of the way now. Yes, it can go bad. The Challenger might hit some spells or whatever, but I need to sort of develop. I need to get to my bigger cards.
Ooh, there we go. We got the Emberheart Challenger. Gonna go ahead and get that Valiant trigger off the Innkeeper's Talent. Finds the land. He actually was missing a land, so that land is huge for Theo as far as keeping the grinding going and getting extra value.
Yep.
Back to Dykeman we go. Now, he had a great turn 2, not so good of a turn 1. And Theo doesn't have the explosive start we saw from game 1, but is starting to assemble a lot. This Innkeeper's Talent's getting a lot of value. Overlord of the Hauntwoods is going to go impending. Is that how you say that? It's going impending? You're impending it?
It's impending is how I kind of say it. That's because it's kind of like it's overlooking it, like the themes, like it's like, oh, this horror is coming. That's how I
we have an impending Overlord of the Hauntwoods. There we go. We'll do it that way. Back to Theo we go very quickly. The Everywhere land produced for Dykeman. A lot of options for Theo. Like I said, wasn't flooded with lands. I think he might have had one, but either way, I mean, a lot of spells still to work with. Second Innkeeper's Talent. That can go targeting on this Emberheart Challenger. Just going to trigger and reveal some more cards.
I mean, this is just, I've been saying it to people, you need to have a reason to not be playing this Gruul deck because it is the most mana efficient deck. It is the fastest deck, and it's not like, oh, you have no card advantage. Like a lot of people say to me, like, oh, they run me out of cards, blah, blah. You create a lot of, redraws or pseudo advantage. Things like Ward 1 off this talent is very frustrating. And you're seeing this from Dykeman. We have this 5/5 Emberheart Challenger staring us down. Meanwhile, we have to kill this Manifold Mouse that we got for free. And, if we don't, it's going to either double strike or trample. And whichever one of those is going to be is really powerful here. And, Steven has done a good job, has sort of done what he was looking for, right? Minus not having Elf on 1, he's had a perfectest draw for what he's looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're really still feeling the sting of that turn 1 duress and miss. That was really where things started to go wrong. Theo has gotten more and more cards, has been uninterrupted. That wasn't the piece of interaction you wanted, and now we really need to play catch up, which is what this deck's designed to do. So we'll see exactly. Tapping a lot of mana here. It's going to be Gix's command.
All right, that's a big one there for Dykeman. That's going to clean the board up and make it so Theo's going to have to recommit to the board. That was one of his few cards that could actually clean everything up. Now, Theo still has a handful of spells. Remember, we got a lot of these cards for free off the Emberheart Challenger. We knew there was a Questing Druid. But
yeah, a lot of that was cleaned up, so but plenty of cards left to work with. So Theo's already tapping mana, and I think he has a backup Challenger. So, once again, can get the card advantage engine going once again right away.
Yep, and Dykeman might have something like a cut down here, but he knows Theo has that Questing Druid, which will gain prowess. So, and you see Theo snap do it.
Yeah, this has been a series of exchanges that have all been really good for Theo. As another land plus spell revealed off of Seek the Beast for Theo. Just more card advantage, more value, and still a ton of pressure to boot. This prowess deck is, I mean, every game it's been on the play, it's looked incredible, and that's certainly part of the equation. But also, like you said, I mean, there's just a ton of grinding going on here too. I mean, look at this attack.
Yep. Attacking
5 points.
It's a big attack. We're going to see this mountain played for free.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. You also get the mountain right away off the Seek the Beast. Have a spell lined up. Yeah, here we go. Your turn. Still no creatures, no permanents in play for Steven. The snowball is snowballing for Theo. Now, will a hard cast Overlord of, I guess hard cast, non-impending Overlord of the Hotwoods going to be added to the board? Another everywhere token being made. Now we got a big blocker. Is that good enough?
The thing is, though, it's not a big enough. Oh, and Heartfire Hero, we can give it haste.
Oh,
that
my
means we
goodness.
Theo takes the first match there and really showing the mana efficiency and grind and burst that this deck has. If you're playing Standard, you got to watch out for this Gruul deck. It is one of the decks to beat in Theo, showing that in spades here. As now we're going to have a second where our players are going to figure out what the second format's going to be for match number 2. So it's not over yet. It is 2 out of 3 matches. We're going to take a quick break so our players can run to the restroom, swap over their decks, and we'll be back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the NRG Championship Series. I'm Mason Clark, joined by Drake Sasser. We're here in the finals for match 2. If you're just joining us, we're playing best of 3 matches. Theo, first seed, won incredibly quickly in standard with Gruul. Dykeman said, hey, I'm on the play. I'm going to play Pioneer. I think my modern deck is really good. I can win on the draw. So we're going to see if he can make that game 3 happen. But first, he's got to beat Theo in the Pioneer format. Let's head on out of the feature match area so those players are ready to go.
Yeah, so keep in mind, if Theo does win this one, he's up a match. So if Theo wins, it's over. Theo is your victor. Theo is your 2025 champion. Dykeman needs to do the reverse sweep on matches. So he needs to win this one and then win the next one. So you mentioned it, kind of keeping that in mind. He believes his matchup in Modern to be very good. He mentioned in his winner's interview when he won his winning into top 8, that NRG is the deck he built the Modern deck to beat and was one of Theo's only losses in stage 1. So as a result, he feels very comfortable about that. That's where he wants to be on the draw. So on the play, he wants to do what he believes is the more uphill battle. He wants to be on the play for that. And that's this matchup. So this matchup here between this mid-range deck and this Jund Sacrifice deck, kind of what you would expect maybe a mid-range mirror to look like, but the Sacrifice gets a combo that makes it weaker at the mid-range stuff. So you're really going to be looking to reach for the combo as your inevitability piece, more so than all of the card advantage engines and stuff that's going on in Steven Dykeman's deck, who's playing, something a little spicy, this Orzhov mid-range deck.
Yep, as we are going to see a Thoughtseize here off the Concealed Courtyard. That's going to reveal a Cauldron Familiar, a Jaeger, Eater of All, Deadly Dispute, Bloodtithe Harvester, and a couple lands. Dykeman built his deck, like you mentioned there, to sort of beat up on Phoenix and the Rakdos Demon deck. Not quite this one.
Yeah, it takes Deadly Dispute, a card that is often represents quite a bit of card advantage. You can sacrifice some of the extra game objects that you make and get cards for your trouble. So that is a card advantage piece. The rest, kind of creatures and stuff that I think Steven's deck is really well built to interact with easily. And, Cat really the one that's hard to interact with, but Thoughtseize doesn't save you there. So it makes sense to take there quite a bit.
Cauldron Familiar is going to come on down here off the Blackcleave Cliffs. That's going to tie the game up at put Theo to 21 and drop Dykeman down to 17. And it seems like
I don't know what that conversation was. Some smiles there. I'd love to be able to listen in there. Didn't quite catch what that was about. A little bit of thinking here on turn 2, though. This cat he knew about, so no new information. Just really thinking about how to sequence things.
Yeah, I think the draw of the Mutavault was like, is there ever a world where I maybe attack with a Mutavault next turn, right? Or block a cat?
Or
and
block,
it's like not really worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the cat gets to beat down. Not worried too much about the chip damage early, I don't think, is Steven.
Yep, Bloodtithe Harvester coming down off the pathway. Pass it over here. Dykeman picks up another Culling Annex, and there it is. This powerful Room from Duskhorns coming down. We've seen this sort of be the revitalizing factor for these black mid-range decks here, as Dykeman is going to lose 2 life and draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, once again, this is the kind of the demons thing going on, right? You have Unholy Annex alongside the Archfiend of the Dross and the Blade of the Onis, and enabling demons as well. Kind of offsets the life loss that would matter actually quite a bit, as it looks like Theo is getting an aggressive force assembled.
Yeah, and this is what Theo really wanted. Dykeman kind of tried to interact on some things. You apply pressure, and then, maybe threaten the combo, or just, actually just beat down to win. And Dykeman's life total is dangerously low as he's figuring out exactly what to do. Now, he does have a demon with Mutavault. That's every creature type. Also an octopus, in case you were curious.
Sure. Also an oof. Like, what do we have?
It can come up. It can come up. As a
Kraken. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I mean, it could matter, right? The life you haven't mentioned it, like the life loss being offset, that could definitely matter, especially as his life total starts to get very precarious. I think for the entire time, even when they were in standard together, Mayhem Devil and Cauldron Familiar have been very well known for killing opponents out of nowhere, and blood tokens and cats and foods and all those things all being sacrificed left and right is a big part of that equation.
Yep, and Drake, and it's important to remember, Dykeman has Heartless Act in his deck to fight over Archfiend of the Dross in the mirror. Well, do you know what Jaeger says? Ward sacrifice of food. All creatures are food. Okay. Whenever a food sacrificed, I gain 2 +1/+1 counters. That Heartless Act does nothing against Yigra here, which is, the removal spell you want to have to stop the combo when Theo's trying to pincer you. Dykeman's in a little bit of an awkward spot there. It looks like another Chamber is going to come down, and we're going to activate that Mutavault and drain for 4 and draw 2 cards.
I mean, the life drain is definitely good, but once again, not playing to the board is not ideal. And you kind of mentioned a little foreshadowing about what could happen with this Yigra. It gets, I mean, even worse than that. Like, none of Steven's removal spells are very good against. He has 4 Fatal Push. Well, that's a 5 mana card. He has 4 Vanishing Verse. Well, it's not monocolored. And as you mentioned, the Heartless Act doesn't work either. 10 instants in the instant column, all of which are removal spells, none of which work against Yigra.
Attack here, 4/7. That's going to knock Dickman down 2/7. We picked up a Verge here for Theo. 1 mana away from being able to cast Yigra, along with one of it being green, but that is something.
It's green.
The deck plays a decent number of green sources. As Bloodtithe Harvester can come down, there's going to be another blood representing as well some pings here for Theo. So that Mutavault gets
a lot of looks to green.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Big spot for Dykeman here. We've seen him take his
time.
We
need to see him play to the board. He's just done nothing on the board all game. I mean, Mutavault's kind of something, not really. I saw Thoughtseize in his hand. I mean, if he doesn't play to the board, he's just dead.
Yep, and it's going to be a tough spot here too, because if he doesn't, like, let's say, unlock the Culling Chamber, right, to get the 6/6 demon, well, we know Theo has a Fatal Push. Steven doesn't. You see, look at Theo's hand. The upside down cards are all the ones that Steven knew. That way he can remember them too. And we're going to see Dykeman start to deploy some other things. Maybe playing around a Fatal Push happening. It's Heartless Axe getting cast.
As you mentioned, got to get that one in before Yigra, because Yigra can't be tagged by it, which of course he does know about. So we're going to go ahead and try to go after the Devil now, which is going to prompt some responses to get the extra damage.
Yep. We're seeing a discard of that Yigra hit Dykeman. Now, you remember Dykeman and there's the green land, but Dykeman needed to fight over that Mutavault because the Bloods could have pinged down the Mutavault. So now Dykeman's thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to be safe. Clears away the Thoughtseize. Gets the Fatal Push.
Brutal Thoughtseize to have to cast. I mean, your life total is under so much pressure, and obviously it's going to expire entirely in the next turn. But once again, you really just want to be playing to the board. And he managed to do so with Heartless Act. He's going to get a bunch of cards for his trouble. And as you mentioned, the drain. He's not dead, but he's not far from it.
Yep, back to 8 life here and doing a great job, Dykeman, there of avoiding maybe some pitfalls that could have easily happened. My opponent, this is a 5 mana spell. What's the odds they punish me here? As an attack for 7 is coming in for Theo. I think it's something, it's tapped out. If something he had like a Cauldron Familiar, we would have seen it already.
To 1.
And we're deadly disputing. Oh, if we hit an oven here, this will be game 1 going to Theo. What will he do? He does get a treasure.
Needs some food. Treasure's not food. Didn't get a great look at the cards. Harvester.
Okay, Harvester plus a Verge is a redraw if you want it. You do have a land for turn you could play.
There might not be that much of a rush. I guess the drain is quite a bit, but you have 9 power and toughness in play. And I mean, I don't think there's no sweepers in this main deck that I'm looking at. So, I mean, a lot of work to do. 9 power and toughness. I don't think you need to get aggressive with the blood right now. So, yeah, it looks like that's what we're going to do. Just leave this very lethal threat in play. At 1 life, riding the line is Steven Dykeman. Needs a reverse sweep. Not a great start so far. 1 life, not where you want to be, but hey, last life point's the one that matters the most.
Yep, we're going to see 2 mana spent. It looks like it's going to be Blade of the Oni. That's a demon, so you won't need to keep spending mana on Mutavault, which is nice, which means it can maybe go on blocking duty. There is the Blade of the Oni.
Yeah, really speaking that mana efficiency is a big part of it. Not having to spend mana every turn on that, as well as other things that weren't impacting the board, is a big part of it. And a lifelinker to help out is a big deal as well. Alenda, Saint of Dusk. Have to imagine this is one of the reasons to be Orzhov. There's only 3 white cards in the main deck. It's 2 copies of this, 4 copies of Vanishing Verse, and 1 Portable Hold. Those are the only white cards in this main deck. And this is an important one. 4/4 lifelinker has hexproof from instance. And as long as your life total is greater than your starting life total, we're pretty far from that. It gets +1/+1 and has menace, and it has an additional +5/+5 as long as it's 10 or more from your starting life total. So the idea here is to gain a bunch of life. So gonna have work to do, and gaining a bunch of life is just what the doctor ordered for Steven Dykeman.
Yeah, and an awkward spot here for Theo as he needs.
He found Mayhem Devil and Oven. What?
And now he is going to win this game, I believe. We'll have to see exactly here. He pings this down, attacks with everything, sacrifice whichever creature is blocked. You can't gain life. That's going to get lethal. And Theo wins game number 1 of match number 2, up a match. And you see it a little bit there when he drew that second card. He's like, wow, that was good. and he was good enough to win
to
that
be
game there, Drake.
whitelisted. just the RNG gods on his side. He's so confident, calm, cool, collected the whole time as he's laying these beatdowns. Dominant performances across the board from Theo. And now Steven Dykman cannot lose another game in this match and cannot lose another match. His back is against the wall.
Yep, and let's see what he's going to sideboard with here with this Orzhov mid-range deck to fight over the Jund Sacrifice deck. We have 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Duress, 2 Fracture, 2 Heliod's Intervention, 2 Invoke Despair, 2 Portable Hole, 2 Shieldred. Drake, what do you like and why?
I really like the Rest in Peace. I think this matchup is a lot about what's in the graveyard for Theo. You know, these cats are a big part of the equation. We saw that be a part of the game-winning combo there as well. I like that. I know it's normally for Phoenix. I want some number of them here. Also kind of interested in Fracture as well. Can take care of Ovens, can take care of the Scavenger's talent. That's a big part of it as well. There's actually 8 enchantments because you have the 4 Fables too. So like getting all those is really appealing where your removal spells actually don't work that well otherwise. And then I think for the same reasons, you can kind of bring in a couple portable holes as well. Exile effects are really appealing to me, and just really making sure your removal works is a big part of the equation for Dykman, because that's a big problem in the main deck games. Your removal spells just don't work that much.
Speaking of big problems, let's check out Theo Jung's sideboard. The Juggernaut cannot be stopped. We have 4 Thoughtseize, 2 Moment Collapse, 2 Obnixilis, 2 Torture Tower, Chandra's Defeat, a Claim the First One, a Duress, a Kolaghan's Command, and a Gigantha. You know, I tried the joke there, Drake. It just didn't land. But what do you think Theo might land on when it comes to sideboarding here?
I like setting up to grind a little bit more. This is a grindy matchup, and there's no real way that Steven can pivot that won't leave him wanting to grind a little bit. So obviously the cards there classically for the grindy matchups are appealing to me. Things like Obnixilis, things like Kolaghan's Command. Even though there's a lot of exile effects that are likely coming in, and Theo does know about that, there's still plenty of just destroy target creature style effects that are going to still be in the main deck. I think you can kind of bring those cards in as well. As for how much, if any, of the hand hate you want, I don't expect that Theo will be that interested in it on the draw. Maybe on the play it gets a little bit better where you can feel a little bit more aggressive, but on the draw, I don't want to reach for as much of it. Maybe some Thoughtseizes if you're feeling spicy. I don't think he has that many cards he wants to take out, so I wouldn't really reach for it. I just kind of want the grindy cards.
Yeah, for sure. And I love this too, the Sir Ginger, the meal ender in the deck, right? Just this little piece of technology that's in here, you know, lets you beat down a little bit. Very cool card. Love to see this sort of archetype still getting explored, right? Pioneer's a format that has had a lot of competitive light shine on it. And for the next little bit, we're going to be focusing more on standard when it comes to these events, but there's still a lot of innovating that can be going on in this format. It's really cool to see that here from Theo. And this is a deck he really loves, Drake. You know, when we see Theo playing Pioneer, it often is this deck, when he's not helping innovate the Rakdos Demons, Vampires deck, that dominated Pioneer for a while, he's just playing this Sacrifice deck, always does well with it. And just, I think this is one of those spots where a strong player has a deck that's very good and just knows all the matchups and plays them incredibly well.
It speaks a little bit to this tournament structure as well. So when you're preparing for a 3-format event like this, it takes a lot of preparation. You're talking about months of preparation in advance. The players that are most successful find a way to thread the line between playing the best decks, especially in formats where they don't feel as comfortable, and playing decks that they like and feel comfortable with in formats where they already feel comfortable and don't want to spend as much time testing. We talked a little bit about that in day 1. It comes up here as far as trying to piece apart what Theo's successful formula has been. I mean, he's been dominant through this whole tournament. You know, Garrick was scared of him, and rightfully so. Here he is, up a match in the finals, up a game in what could be the winning match in the finals as well. He's had such a dominant performance, and a big part of that is really finding that line. Not only is he a very talented Magic player, but many of these players are talented Magic players. How do you get the edge? How do you get edge in preparation? If you look at Theo's decks, the decks he chose to register, he managed, I think, to do a very good job threading the line between playing best decks and then still finding room to play decks where he likes in formats where he feels comfortable.
Yep, makes a lot of sense, and it seems to be working for him there. So if you're ever in an invitational spot like this, maybe that's something to keep in mind for yourself there. As let's head down to feature match here as our players are shuffling up for this game number 2. Remember now, Theo needs to just win one more game, and he is our champ. Dykman needs to win the next 2, and then the match of Modern. Now, notably, like we talked about earlier, Dykman, he really likes his energy matchup as the blue-white control deck. So he's sort of saying, hey, this matchup might be one that's a little tougher for me than the finals, but I've got to get it done. I might as well try and get it on the play here. And gets to be on the play again, but we'll need a good draw. As we saw, Theo is able to beat down still with this deck that can sometimes, you know, not do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of what he's got going on in his decks, too. A lot of his decks can just beat down and get the game over with quick, and some of them can grind. And really having mastery over when to pivot there is a big part of his successful formula as well. I mean, there's a lot you could point to as far as Theo's run. But for Dykeman, he's done a good job with this preparation in the past. He's won this event before, and, obviously looking to do so again. So he knows what it takes to be a winner here as well. And now it's time to figure it out. And obviously, like you said, he thinks this matchup is the harder of the two. So really just clenching, trying to get out of this matchup with a dub, and then it could be smooth sailing to the championship and to the trophy and all the invites and all these things that you get as a result of winning, but needs to get two here. Needs to get one on the play and one on the draw. And here's the one on the play.
Concealed Courtyard, passing the turn to Theo. Theo Blackleaf Cliffs into Scavenger's Talent. That's a new one from Bloombar that really helped this deck out. We'll go over it as it levels up too, but the first thing to know is if a creature dies, we make a food token. So it's kind of like another Witch's Oven when it comes to chump blocking with your Cauldron Familiar. Gives you a lot of different pieces as Theo's just going to level it up right away.
Yeah, obviously very much values this, and I think this is part of the reason to bring in some of those fractures that were in Dykeman's sideboard. This card can present a lot of extra value. I mean, this is a deck, this sacrifice deck, that is very good at capitalizing on random game objects, of which food is one of those. Just like a random food that you get as a result of sacrificing your stuff. Well, okay, that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to use food, either Witch's Oven Cat or, your Deadly Disputes, what have you. Your Mayhem Devils just get value. Even if you just activate the food, you're looking to get value off these game objects. Scavenger's Talent, generating those is important. And of course, there's more text beyond that. Big pickup for this deck.
Yep, Cauldron Familiar, the play for the turn. Level 2 was whenever we sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2. Typically, you're going to see Theo do that on himself, as the last one does let you reanimate something from the graveyard. But sometimes you also see players mill each other out with Scavenger's Talent. You get 2 or 3 of those in play, Drake. You start sacrificing food, and your opponent has a lot of life. With your Cauldron Familiar, mill 6, mill 6, mill 6. So something to keep in mind.
Sure. Yeah, we're a mill deck now. Check this out. Another angle that this deck can have. I mean, that's part of the power of the Jund Sacrifice deck. May not have as much of the speed or as much of kind of just the face-up resiliency that some of the other decks in the format have. What it has is a lot of different pivots. You can pivot into, obviously, you mentioned this mill thing. It's a little more niche, but you have a lot of reach in the form of Mayhem Devil. We saw Theo take a very aggressive posture in game 1, and we know it can be a grindy deck. Sacrifice decks have been like that for a long time. So having all of these options across the board is such a big part of the equation when it comes to being successful with the sacrifice deck, is knowing what plan to go with, when to pivot, and I think Theo has a mastery of that.
Yeah. Dykeman taking a second to consider.
A lot of thought here.
Yeah, he's clearly got something going on here that it's like a little bit hard to decipher for him. And the big thing that I can tell is there's Shieldred and Archfiend of the Dross in hand, along with just maybe playing another, Ritual Room and activating Mutavault like we saw in the last game. So I think Dykeman's trying to figure out, do I spend this turn kind of, getting more cards and get that engine going? Do I maybe play a Shieldred in order to get that going? Archfiend of the Dross is also pretty good in this matchup for making Cat Oven a little worse because your opponent loses 2 life. Shieldred's going to be played here. Deadly Dispute in response. Sacrifice and Cauldron Familiar. That should be a milling 2 of ourselves, and we're going to get a food from the Scavenger Talent's first mode, along with a treasure and objects.
Just game objects. I alluded to it before. I mean, that's what this is about. We make the tokens, and you see all these tokens being made. We get a treasure. We get a food. We get to mill 2. We get to draw 2. You just get to do it all. And this is a really nice synergy that you get with Cauldron Familiar. I mean, obviously, it had the Witch's Oven already. That was already good enough. People already played that stuff. We'll check it out. Scavenger's Talent now works very nicely with the Cat as well, because sacrificing, you get a food, bring it right back. Why not? And so free value on the Deadly Dispute, a great exchange for Theo. And you want to do that before Shieldred resolves. Otherwise, you're just taking damage that you otherwise wouldn't need to.
Yep, and we're seeing Theo here, end of turn, sacrifice the food to bring back the cat. Dykeman doesn't lose any life because we have the 2 life to pay for the culling, and then we gain 2 from the Shieldred. That's why this player doesn't do anything. Theo's going to gain 1. Dykeman's going to love 1 here, and then you see Dykeman saying, I remember where Shieldred.
I love the finger.
Yeah.
Trigger!
Yeah.
I love the pause from Theo, too, just leaving Dykeman just like, trigger. The stack is not empty.
Theo picks up a Witch's Oven. Big draw here as that cat will now be super safe from anything like a Vanishing Verse. Has a Multi-Collapse as well. Maybe wants to clean up this Shieldred the Apocalypse, and he does.
Great exchange. 2 mana for 4. I mean, Magic Fundamentals, that was a good exchange for Theo. It's been good exchange after good exchange for him.
Witch's Oven is the play. Attack for 1. I think Theo even has another Scavenger's Talent. We might see him deploy that and get, double food for his work when it comes to this oven. And one of the things to remember, Drake, too, is that last mode on the talent, you get to bring something back in the graveyard. So all this milling and sacrificing we're doing, that's going to set up for our Yigra combo sooner than later. And it looks like we're going to mill ourselves after we float some mana with the treasure, play the Kroxa, make Dykeman have to discard a card. But then we're sacrificing a permanent and losing the Kroxa. It's a food going to be made. And we can also sack it to the oven if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can oven it too. You got all the options. This is crazy. The one of Kroxa too, such an important one in this matchup if you can find it. Obviously, milling helps you find it, also helps you escape it. Get a look at that one. Powerful Titan from the Theros Beyond Death. I think the only one legal in this format, Uro banned. Right. And so we're dealing with Kroxa. Really one of your best grindy cards, right? This is a card that will slog through all the removal. It will, of course, get value even if Steven has removal that works, something like Portable Hole. It's going to make him discard a card and then maybe even take some damage beyond that. Just an important one. And another piece of the puzzle for Theo. You know, you can do whatever you want. You can sacrifice it. It sacrifices itself, plays to all of your synergies very nicely. And obviously it's just a grindy card. And this is really, like I said, this is what the glue that holds all this stuff together are these cards that both do it all. They grind and they grind through game objects.
Thoughtseize takes the talent.
You mentioned having a backup talent. He did. Well, yeah, here we go. Going to take that with Thoughtseize, finds a target.
Yep. Archfiend of the Dross on the stack. Theo saying, I'm going to respond, friend. I'm going to sacrifice this cat. Mill 2, probably targeting myself. Still going to get the 1 food from the oven and then 1 food from the talent. So now Theo's going to have an extra food. Going to hit a second call. All right, Drake, we're 1 cat away. Now, notably, Archfiend of the Dross does make your opponent lose 2 life. But
every time you sack a creature, I really want to highlight that. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its control loses 2 life. I think this is the reason we saw Dykeman lead on Shieldred. Normally a card that you think is one of the best cards in the format, the card you want to be the only thing left over when the dust settles. I don't think it's true in this matchup. I think you actually want Archfiend to be the last thing because it is so good at punishing the sacrifice synergies. Making your opponent lose 2 life is such an important part of this combo and disrupting the combo and things like that.
Yep. So of note here, Theo will gain 1 life and then lose 2, right? So he's mitigating it a little bit as long as he has life sort of pay with everything going on here. So this is a spot where, Theo can beat the Archfiend of the Dross on the life total stack when it comes to going for it. But if Theo gets low enough, he will not be able to combo with Yigra through the Dross. So we'll have to see how it goes here. It looks like Theo's going to bring back at least one of the cats, both cats here.
Sure.
With the food. Going to have 1 food remaining.
The part of the combo that doesn't hurt you. So this is the part that's kind of quote unquote free, as we do find another cat up the mill. So another synergy there with the Scavenger's Talent second mode, not just feeling Kroxa, but also finding all your cats. You just bring those back.
Yep. Can also bring back that devil there, Drake, which could, maybe we can get Dykeman low enough. We're at 10 life. It's a little bit away, but not so far away.
Maybe you just pick off the Archfiend too. Just kill it. And then what doesn't even matter. I mean, it might be the same math to kill Steven, but who knows? I mean, if you can get to 6, not 10, there's something to do that is very meaningful. And I mean, with you having double Steven's life total, I think that's the number. I think having double life total matters because once again, you're losing 2 for every 1. So you want to exchange 2 for 1 from a spot where you have double Steven's life total. And that can happen right now with that extra cat in the yard if we can get the Yigra stuff going.
Yeah, and we see Theo lining up 3 mana. Of note, Theo can do something like sacrifice a cat here, right? If he wanted to, and just take some mills and try and find the Yigra and see if he can go for it then. He can also sort of, declare this attack. And if Dykeman blocks, we're going to get the food. I think Dykeman said block 1. Theo said, I'll sack that one.
I mean, he's just, it's transparent what's happening here. You're going to block 1. I'm going to sack the one that's going to block. Love that shortcut there. Just very, very intentional about knowing how this is going to play out and what he wants to do.
Yep, Theo lost 2 life there because a creature did die. Dykeman loses 1, but Theo gets 2 more looks at Yigra. Had he found it, that could be game over. Now, another thing Theo can do here is hold priority on sacrificing the food with the cats to get multiple looks if he wants to. So sack of food, mill 2, hold priority, sack of food, mill 2. And so Theo potentially might be able to get there this turn, but might lose some food resources. We'll have to see what he wants to do, as that life from the food is pretty relevant too, and has all this mana for Kroxa.
Yeah, once again, all the options for Theo are great. You just kind of did a great job outlining it there, but Kroxa, a part of it. Obviously, we could reach for combo stuff still if we want. I think at this point, maybe that's getting a little bit more ambitious. And yeah, it looks like Theo. I mean, once again, there's no rush. You are on the attack, but also you also have inevitability. It's the best spot to be. Steven needs to answer a lot of stuff.
Yep, we're going to exile 5 lands here. Escape Croxus. Steven describes a duress, not what it's about. And Theo with 5 lands in hand, a wise call there for Dykeman. He wants that for their early turns, so maybe prevent something like this talent coming down. And
That's
we're going to play.
not what this is about at all. And once again, we highlighted he has 3 copies of recipes in this sideboard. How good would these have been this game, right? Being able to shut down all this cat nonsense, shut down the crux of nonsense would have been so important. Not finding your sideboard cards is a part of what can lose you some sideboard games. And I think Steven, assuming he has multiple of them in his deck, would really like to see one and has not. And maybe now it might even be too late.
Fatal Push. That's going to lose 2 life due to the dross, and we're going to get another food thanks to the talent, which means another 2 mills at the Ygra. And this is a tough place for Dykeman, right? Like you're talking about, Theo doesn't have to go for it. Dykeman's the one who has to make this game end quickly. Every exchange is sort of, not that bad for Theo and potentially game ending for Dykeman. As we are going to play Immutable for turn and then spend 3
we already had. Some awkward mana and a second Annex. I mean, we've drawn multiple of them each game. I think this is a card you still want in the matchup, but drawing multiples, not really where you want to be. The John's Sacrifice deck is very much about what's on play, and not affecting the board is tough, but you do want one in order to enable all of your card advantage engine stuff and give you some inevitability. Getting busy.
I think it might actually be clutch here, Drake, because we're attacking Theo down to 10 and then draining another 4. So now Theo's at 6, the Dykeman's 13. So Theo, I'm pretty sure, cannot actually Ygra combo because
that's correct. As long as the Archfiend's in play, he doesn't have enough life to Ygra combo. But it is putting yourself in a little precarious situation. You might be able to just find 13 this turn. We'll see. I mean, he needs to do so before he gets hit by the Archfiend too many times. That might be the hard part. Because, you could get Devil back, start to do a bunch of crazy cat stuff. That's kind of what's face up on the table. Archfiend disables a lot of that. So once again, like I said, really heads up. We mentioned Dykeman took a long time on that decision earlier between leading on Shieldred, leading on Archfiend. And I think he made a really wise play. Leading on Shieldred, Theo has to answer that. It's not like you just ignore it. Molten Collapse had to answer that. And then Archfiend was the leftovers. And now it might be good enough to get him the game win if Theo drew a brick. We'll see what Theo can cook up. I mean, he's done a great job finding the right lines in every other match. I have faith he'll find the best line here. The question is it good enough?
Theo counting it out, saying, okay, I spend 3 mana. I bring back my Devil. I lose 3 foods. Then I can, sacrifice my cat one time. I'll take a little bit of damage. I'll ping once. I'll bring it back another time. That's 2. That's 3 by my count here. We're going to get 1 extra food because of the talent. That's 4. And that's not enough. Theo's dead. And the extra annexes, they're really good at making the game long and swinging the life total. So game number 3 is available for us now, Drake, as, Dykeman showed hey, I have a couple cards that are nice. This dross card will force you, to get it done sooner than later if I can get the damage in. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, that was the hard part, and really setting himself up for that spot. Like you mentioned, the second Annex gave him a little bit of reach, which was very important. And also, obviously, drawing a brick there for Theo is also important as well. If he finds an answer to dross, everything's over. But it's like I said, Dykeman did a great job lighting it up, using the Shieldred as a lightning rod for the dross. And I mean, that last line of text that normally is one of the least relevant parts of what's going on with the card comes up huge in this matchup in particular. And is going to be a game winner there. And that is, we get a game 3. This is step 1. This is step 1 for Steven Dykeman. It looked like it was going to be over for him. He won this one. Now he needs to win another one on the draw and then win the final match, which we know, we spoke to him earlier in the interview booth. We know that he likes his matchup in Modern. So he needs to get there. And there's one more game in the way of that, as they are doing a little bit more sideboarding here for game number 3.
Speaking of getting in the way, you might want to try and get in the way of our champion next year. Check out next year's events coming up. We have the first 4 announced. February 1st and 2nd, Chicagoland. We have the 10K Showdown. You win a showdown, you come to our events. Sunday, Team Trial. March 15th to the 16th. Saturday, 10K Showdown. 5K Sunday Trial, with the formats for all these events coming very soon. May 10th or 11th, we have the Saturday 10K Showdown, Sunday 5K Trial, and then the 20th to the 29th, double showdown weekend. 10K Showdown Saturday, singles. Team on Sunday. 3 people going, as well as the end of our season 1 leaderboard, where a couple players will get invited to our champs next year. We do have a leaderboard. We reward consistent results here on the NRG series. And we had a couple of our players today have pretty deep runs who were there via that. And some of our players who just won the showdowns do as well. Multiple ways to make it here. lots of money on the line, lots of competitive Magic and fierce competition here on the NRG series. We'd love to see you come out in 2025. And if you can't, click the follow button. That way you don't miss any of the live streams, which really bring in thanks to our sponsor, Ultimate Guard, who helps us bring paper Magic to everyone here. We love paper Magic. If you love it as well, consider using Ultimate Guard's products and the next time you're at your store. The katanas is the one everyone always talks about. They love the sleeve. I love the name.
They're nice. They're nice sleeves. There's no two ways about it. The katanas are nice sleeves, but the deck boxes and stuff are nice too. It's a company that I'm happy to support. I'm proud to use their products, and I mean, they just make good stuff. So like, what else you want? I mean, obviously you should support them because they support us, but also they just they make stuff that we use. They make stuff we believe in, and that's a good reason to use them as well. You talked a little bit about rewarding consistency on this series, and not only do we do that, but it's important to thread the line. You want to reward spiking an event. You want your winners to have a chance to continue to prove themselves and snowball it into more things, but you also want to reward consistency. I think we have a good story of that here. Theo's obviously a very consistent player, but his path to the championship here was via winning a tournament. He won the July Modern Showdown. And Dykman, on the other hand, also a winner, but also somebody that has proven his consistency as well, being the 2023 MVP, but also won the championship as his path here. I really like the way NRG has set this up in that way. I really like that we do have some slots for the leaderboard, slots for players that couldn't quite get the win, but were very consistent. And also we have, lots of slots for the winners. It's easy to qualify if you just can only make it out to one weekend. All you have to do, win the event. Easy peasy.
Yep. Both players mulliganing down here to at least 6 cards. Got a little slugfest 6 up in the final game, of match number 2. Remember, if Theo wins, it's all over but the goodbye for the 2024 year. If Steven wins, then it's modern time where he feels at his best versus, the boogeyman of this format, Mardu Energy. Both Mardu and Boros, a deck that we have seen dominate the Magic Online results when it comes to modern, as well as, the paper results, right? It's been a very powerful deck, incredibly consistent. And honestly, it seems like, only combo decks have been able to consistently beat it in the past. But Dykman thinks he's figured out the recipe here.
I mean, there was some mid-range. I mean, not like I said, not a deck that we've seen, and so it is a little bit of kind of a dark horse, if you will. Kind of registering that Dykman, another player very well known for playing the best decks when they're the best, and here he is playing a spicy brew, and now on mulligans, on the draw, of course, it feels pretty good to get the extra card when you are on a mulligan, but at the same time, the Theo, I don't think needs every single one of his cards to assemble the combo and get it done quickly in an aggressive posturing like we saw from game 1.
Yep. As we're going to see a cat passing the turn to Dykman, who has both Rest in Peace and a Heliod's Intervention in hand, 2 sideboard cards that fight over different parts of what Theo's doing, but are both very powerful here. As the Cauldron Familiar is going to get in for 1. Theo knocking Dykman down to 18. We're going to see a Thoughtseize, and that's a good one. As this Rest in Peace,
to see.
Yeah, Rest in Peace, Fatal Push, Heliod, Archfiend, the dross here, but Theo's on 1 land.
Whoa, no second land is tough. I mean, Theo likes his hand and obviously has multiple castables, so he can afford to miss a land drop. And Thoughtseize finds good targets, but I mean, Dykman's hand's pretty loaded. Multiple sideboard cards. We saw how good Archfiend was in game 1, and removal spells. That's a nice mixture to be working with. Yeah,
it looks like Theo's deciding, okay, is this a game where the Rest in Peace is actually going to lights out me? We saw in game number 2, had the Rest in Peace come down, it would have been that way. And Theo's taking the Fatal
Push. Face, that looks like, okay, this is tough. He did not look pleased with what he saw there as he began to write these cards down. Does choose Fatal Push. Interesting of note, like obviously Dykman could have cast the Fatal Push prior if you want to just line up the kill, but then you can just Thoughtseize away the Rest in Peace and get your cat back. You can make that exchange bad. And so it's very heads up not casting the Fatal Push there and letting it be taken instead to maybe line up a better future.
Nope, we are going to see a Thoughtseize here on Theo. Theo with Fable, Fatal Push, Mayhem Devil, and Molten Collapse in hand. Dykman
still lands.
Yeah. It's got an interesting spot here because it's like, okay, obviously Theo can only play the Fatal Push right now, but do I care about that? Or do I care more about Fable? Do I care more about the Molten Collapse or the Devil? Collapse it into my draws. Fable might get him out of this draw. Mayhem Devil's an annoying card. So, Drake, how do you go about figuring out when you're going to do in these kind of spots?
Well, I mean, obviously what's going on here is a pretty big delta between, do you care about creatures? Do you care about the grinding value? The best cards in Theo's hands are the 3 mana cards. And yeah, I think we're going to go for that. That's what I like to do. You need to assume that Theo is going to draw a land. He's going to be able to play this game. If he doesn't, then you're going to win because he can't play the game. So you want to plan for what happens if Theo draws a land every turn for the rest of the game until he wants to stop. And you're going to take the best card for that scenario. He did a good job of that, taking Fable, in my opinion.
Yep, as we are going to see, rest in peace, the play. And that's going to exile all the graveyards. Every card coming out with the future is going to be that way. Dykeman doesn't have the 4th land rolled up, but does have Shieldred and Archer in the draws the case. Theo had it, plays the pathway, attacks for 1, passes the turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is the last turn to find it where things aren't just unwinnable, I think, for Theo. Like, it's an uphill battle from here, but he needed to find the land there. And yeah, I mean, things are going to start to get bad, obviously, but he can actually play the game now, which is an important part of the equation.
Theo takes 2 off the draw from the Shieldred trigger. Does have the Molten Collapse for the Shieldred. We're going to see that fired off. Attack for 1 with the Cauldron Familiar. Cauldron Familiar to the draw for turn for Theo. Has that in hand. Dykeman with another Archfiend of the draw. So off the top is going to play it down again.
So sick. The same sequence, right? You get to line up the Shieldred. You have to answer this. My leftovers are Archfiend of the draw. Once again, such a powerful setup in this matchup.
Yeah. Steven taking the hit, knowing that Fatal Push could be revolted, and then answer the draws. Mayhem Devil with a Swamp. Passing the turn. Now, remember, Dykeman does need to win before the Archfiend has 0 counters on it, but the second Archfiend is very good at that. And you see how fast Dykeman knows, I have the game 3. That's the matchup I want to play. Give me that energy deck. I think it's free. And Blackleaf Cliffs at the draw for Theo. Has Yigra picked up during all those turns, too. With Fatal Push, is going to attack for 4. And
yeah,
pick it up.
He's dead on board. Yeah, that's it. And of course, the triggers don't work anymore because the recipes, but it doesn't matter. We just have 12 on the board. So Theo going to lose this match, and this is exactly what Dykeman needed. He needed to win 2 in a row there after losing game 1 there, managed to do it. And now, I mean, he spoke about it early in the interview. He feels good about this matchup. On the draw or not, doesn't care. He built his control deck to beat energy. Theo's on energy. This should be a good matchup. Dykeman feels good about it. This is what he needed to do in order to get the runbacks.
Yep, and it's all coming down. Match 3. Theo will be on the play if he wants it. I assume he will, but we'll see how Theo wants to do it.
You want to take the draw in the control matchup? Like, what? No.
What the Juggernaut says is what I do, so that's what's coming on down there. But we're going to take a quick second here to get those players some time to take a second, get some water, use the bathroom, shovel up their decks from their modern decks here. They might need to move some cards over like that Giganta there. So we're going to give those players 2 quick minutes. So we're going to give you all 2 quick minutes to go get some water, and we'll be right back with the finals of the 2024 NRG Champ Series. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG Championship Series for 2024. We're in the finals, game one of match 3. Both players won a match, and they're already playing Drake. Let's head on down. These players cannot wait to see who's going to win, and I can't wait to see either. As we're going to see Mardu NRG here on your left versus Dykeman on the right. You see the players, they were so excited. They started playing before we gave them the thumbs up because they just couldn't wait to battle. But what happened so far this game? Turn 1, Ocelot Pride. Turn 1, Tap Land for Dykeman. Turn 2, Surveillance, Bin Flage. Played other Ocelot Pride. We're triggering some cats.
Ben Flage is pretty nice. Also, triggering the cats is nice. I mean, obviously, Wrath of the Sky is going to be a big part of solving the problem here, but going to need it pretty soon. I mean, things are starting to snowball out of control. We've only played 2 cards, both of which are 1 mana. That's the power of Ocelot Pride. But as we mentioned before, Steven Dykeman likes this matchup. This is the one he wanted to play. This is what he built his deck to beat. So I would expect this one to be favored for Dykeman overall, if he is to be believed. And I have no reason to doubt him. This is a classic control versus mid-range setup, and typically control is built to beat that. But Theo is on the play, so can he get aggressive and get underneath what Dykeman has going on? And I think double Ocelot Pride is a great start towards that end.
Yeah, I mean, Theo has the Goblin Bombardment in hand, Drake, which we're going to hit with all these cats. That's going to be 4. And we're going to have double City's Blessing, I think, with a land drop after the first one resolves, and that's just going to go a little crazy. We'll have to see, though, what Dykeman has. There is a Solitude in hand. Looks like Dykeman's thinking about something on the first turn here. Maybe it's a prismatic ending. Maybe it's an aggressive solituding to get the permanent count lower. We'll have to see what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, do you have to Solitude? I didn't necessarily see any, like, Wrath of the Sky, Supreme Verdict style stuff. Instead, kind of, we're going to be reaching for the One Ring. We're going to try to build towards the One Ring and use that to try to find our answers. But, I mean, being on the draw, that's pretty slow. And if we're fetching and shocking here, it's not getting that much better either. So, you know, really the power of Ocelot Pride on display, putting a lot of pressure on a Dykeman to have to interact now, and it's only turn 2.
Yep. We see the Hollow Fountain get fetched up here for Dykeman. Maybe it's something like an Orange Chant he's setting up. We'll have to see. He's playing a little close to the chest at the moment.
Yeah, it does have the Orange Chant, I believe. So that might be exactly what it is. I think you called that out, and that's going to be correct.
And you see a Sure there from Theo. Still has the ability to play a land, but that's about it. It doesn't even have the land past the Dykeman. That's a good one. And getting Time Walk there, you know, in exchange just for 1 card for Theo. And we have another Orange Chant in hand for Dykeman Drake.
Oh my goodness. 2 Orange Chant's such a big part. I mentioned he wasn't going to have time. Well, Orange Chant, I mean, it's card disadvantage, but once again, you get to do all this because the One Ring subsidizes your card advantage. So if you could just do this long enough to get to your One Rings, you're good to go. Now, he doesn't even feel like he needs to. It looks like he's just going to let it happen, take the chance, and, you know, maybe use it post-mortem.
Yep, has 2 the One Rings, Cosmic Rebirth, Solitude, Teferi. Of note, the Solitude is something you can take. It's in there with the other cards. And then you also get a card from the graveyard, nothing in there right now. I think what Dykeman might be doing here is we're trying to Cosmic Rebirth back a land into play. That way we can play these One Rings and start taking over the game.
And the life gain is going to do some to mitigate the attack, too. Now, obviously, Goblin Bombardment starts to complicate things, but Dykeman got a little shrug. He's not too worried about it. But yeah, like I said, the 3 life you gain from Cosmic Rebirth, that's most of the attack that happened this turn. So as far as not necessarily needing to use Orange Chant to do the fog style effect, preventing the attack or undoing the attack even, Cosmic Rebirth is a big part of that puzzle. Now, of course, if it was just Thoughtseize and it wasn't like Dreams of Steel and Oil, you can even rebuy like the One Ring that was taken, but you have duplicates, so just get your land, ensure that you hit it on time. This is a great sequence from Steven.
Notably, Dreamstone Oil does exile, so that means cards like Flage and things can't come back. So we actually can't get it back here. That's why you're seeing players play this in the main deck, Drake, because Flage is such a powerful game warping card that combined with the One Ring, they just have to fight over these things.
Yeah, and that's spoken to with Theo's deck building too. He has 2 of each in the main deck between Thoughtseize and Dreams, and 2 of each in the sideboard as well. So that really shows, you know, that respect for those, you know, graveyard cards, even things like Cruxa, whatever. Anything graveyard oriented, you can hit with Dreams of Steel and Oil. And so just splitting the discard spells like that in the main deck and adjusting them in the sideboard is a big part of the equation here.
Surveil land for Dykeman. Take a look at the top of the deck. Figure out if he likes it or not. And now we're going to get to some cats.
Yeah, it's cat time. We did gain some life, which means more cats and a lot more potential damage from this Goblin Bombardment. Remember, even if we find a Wrath, there's so many tokens here that you're going to get a lot of damage still for your trouble. So the One Ring has a lot of work to do, but I mean, the card's well known for how much work it does.
Yeah, and remember, we have the city's blessing now, so that means with 2 cost slot pride, you get the extra copy. So a bunch of cats get made here on the end, which means Theo has a bunch of 1 damage little pings available to him. Obviously, the One Ring can protect Dagman for a turn, but this is a way for Theo to actually sneak across maybe the last points of lethal in a situation where normally he can't.
Yeah, that's I mean, a big deal. I think how many copies? We got 2 copies of Goblin Bombardment in the main deck. Finding one here, a big deal. And once again, it's I mean, almost been 2 Ocelot Prides by themselves, just kind of snowballing their way into a potential victory. Now, a little bit more to do, like we mentioned. Does have access to the One Ring. Hands face up, so Steven just left that on the table. Gonna take a look at that. All the cards over there are not in play.
I'm really interested to see how Steven wants to maneuver this game, because I really thought we were going to Solitude down one of the Ocelot Prides, because that would have stopped the city's blessing and would have put us in like a much better, like just so many less cats also have another life. And your Teferi doesn't do a ton, but clearly there's some card Dykman is thinking about wanting to hold it for, because he has a lot of it set up. Maybe as simple as wanting to pick up his One Ring, do something like play Teferi this turn, kick an Orange Champ, but it was a very interesting play.
The plan is the way that Theo recovers, right? So, like, let's assume his plan is to stick the One Ring, find a Wrath. So he didn't know about Goblin Bombardment when he assembled a lot of this plan, right? So Goblin Bombardment just came down. That complicates his entire plan. I think that's why we're thinking so much. Previously, if he just plays the One Ring, finds a Wrath, gets the Wrath everything, the way Theo stays in the game after that is with cards like Flage. And having Solitude to pick off Flage and get that in exile could be a big part of what his plan was for the post-Wrath, the post-Supreme Verdict, post-Wrath of the Skies stuff.
Yeah, I think I just disagree, which I hate to do on coverage, but I think the way you lose is bombardment. I think this was the only way Dykman can ever lose this game, and we're going to have to see what he's going to do here. I mean, it looks like he's lining up the One Ring, but I mean, Theo just does not care about it as much as you normally would, because the bombardment's representing a lot of potential damage. Obviously, can't do anything this next turn. He has protection. But I'm curious to see how this goes, because that is the card that makes it so, you know, your Wraths aren't good. You can't keep up. But Dykman here said he built this deck to beat NRG. He's played this matchup way more than I have. I've never played this deck before. We'll have to see how it goes as he picks up a Lorien revealed and a passing of the turn.
Not great. Lets you use that 1 mana, but yeah, and like I said, obviously this Goblin Bombardment's going to present a problem. There's no 2 ways about it. Obviously, the ideal scenario, you'd be able to resolve One Ring, and there's no incentive necessarily to move right away. And if you could follow up with a Wrath, that's how you'd kind of want to do it. That's tough to line up, especially now. It's not going to be line upable, and now there's a bunch of potential damage already in play, potentially even more coming, and things are going to start to get very bad.
Well, I guess it depends on how this goes, but Theo can Flage down his own cat token to gain life. I think he has a Flage in hand. Maybe he doesn't. I just saw, but you would gain life, which would then trigger the Pride, which would then go crazy.
He has one in Yard, right, from that early Surveil, but we don't have the cards for it yet.
Okay, so we don't have the cards. We're going to fetch really quick here. It looks like Theo also picked up the One Ring. Maybe I missed all the Flage. Obviously, Solitude could have interacted with that, but it would have forced Dykman's hand. Looks like Dykman's...
Yeah, I mean, he knew about the Flage early, right? He knew about the Flage early from the Surveil, didn't know about the bombardment necessarily. And so now, you know, you're keeping the Solitude to cover for that Flage that, with the Arena of Glory, would come in with haste. You just need to stop that. That will just kill you immediately as a follow-up. And the bombardment obviously ruins all of his plans. And now I don't know if there was ever a way to cover bombardment. He just doesn't have any of his prismatic endings and things of that nature to really check that. And I don't even know if he finds them now, if they're going to be good enough.
Yeah, and this One Ring card comes down here, and this is why we've seen, you know, these energy decks, they kind of play out like these Zooey style mid-rangey decks when they don't have cards like the One Ring and Raptor. They just present creatures that provide good value. But when they have the One Ring, they can actually fight through, as we see Theo pick up Amped Raptor, excuse me. And we're going to see a Lorien reveal cycle here.
Okay, yeah.
Gonna get a land.
It looked like there, the way he was tapping, it was gonna be 5 mana and a castle reveal. I was like, well, okay, is this just a concession? No, we're before we untap, we're gonna go ahead and do that island cycling ability.
Yeah, and Theo, you know, representing a lot of burst with the Goblin Bombardment out of nowhere. So Steven has to find some sort of answer. Does have cards, you know, like Teferi can bounce the bombardment, but
yeah, it's just tough because, like you said, if we find Wrath of the Skies, we clear everything, and then Flage just comes in with haste and kills you. So the Solitude does that even cover that? We got 6, 7, 8 to put you to 5. Okay. I mean, you have a One Ring to contend with, but if we find Wrath of the Skies, that's just the best draw, right? That takes care of everything that's in board, and you're not necessarily dead to the Flage entering, but you do need the Solitude pitch cast in order to check it so it doesn't attack and kill you.
Yeah, exactly. So you have it all kind of covered up there. There's also Orim's Chant can buy you a little bit of time, but like you mentioned before, the One Ring is ticking down here.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the Wrath of the Skies. It looks like he didn't find it there, so that might be trouble.
Plays a land, has an Island Force Negation in hand. For some reason, is showing us as hiding one of the cards. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to split the cards that are known with cards that are unknown, and then more cards that are unknown. So it's just like the hand is all over the place right now for Steven Dykman, but all of those cards are in his hand.
So I think what Steven might be trying to do here is set up this Teferi, bounce the Goblin Bombardment, and then be able to Orim's Chant so Theo can't replay the Bombardment. And then the Wrath of the Skies you can find off the One Ring might actually go the distance here. He has minus and he's targeting something. We don't know exactly what it is. Theo, it looks to be Goblin Bombardment as we would have expected here. I was going to say there's maybe a small chance it's the One Ring, but I doubt it.
Well, there's more going on here, right? If you bounce the Bombardment and you have Wrath of the Skies, it's a disaster for Theo if he doesn't move. So by holding up the 3 mana here and bouncing Bombardment, Theo might actually have to start bombarding. He might actually have to start throwing his creatures away because he doesn't know if Steven has drawn Wrath or not. If he has it, it's so bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, you can either go after Theo, I'm sorry, after Dykman or Teferi as Theo as well. So he has to think through all this here because, like you're mentioning, it could go awful. I wonder if Theo's thinking, okay, I definitely want to kill this Teferi just so I can play at instant speed with the few cards I have that can matter in that regard. You know, like my Amphraptor won't actually play cards, but what else do I want to do? I want to get a couple points in.
Yeah, the question is, does he have a Wrath? I mean, that's the entire question. Did you draw a Wrath? If you did, it's so bad.
Oh,
and it looks like he's going all in on it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like Dykman, if he gets this and he has the Wrath, you almost lose on the spot. Whereas you don't lose on the spot. You have the One Ring. So if you just get the damage, you have the One Ring, you have Flage going on, you have enough that you can still win even if he doesn't have the Wrath. Now, this is a sick bluff from Dykman because he doesn't have it. So by just doing the Teferi, bouncing the Goblin Bombardment, Theo has to move. And now he has mana left over, including that Solitude to do stuff. Can't let the Flage happen because he is at 3. And so does need to stop the Flage from happening for the rest of the game for the moment. We'll see what we can do about that.
It looks like, yeah, we lose 2 life here from the One Ring. We have Orim's Chant. We'll try to respond, but remember Teferi doesn't let us respond. And now Theo draws an Arena of Glory.
The Teferi plus Orim's Chant so sick there. Like you can't do anything. You can't respond to it. So you don't even get to pick the Teferi off. And now here comes a One Ring that now Dykman needs to worry about. But I mean, this game looks so much better for him than it did last turn because of that Teferi. Sometimes just threatening to have a card is as good as having the card itself. A lot of counter spells in hand, needs to get this One Ring away, but then has a lot of cover for stuff.
Yeah, and the One Ring, one of the things it does best is find another One Ring, draw 3 cards here. 1, Wrath of the Skies. 2, Teferi Time Raveler.
Oh my
goodness. 3, Narset. Now that's going to reset the One Ring if we decide to play it. But if we do it, I don't know if we can play it again this turn.
So we get Teferi bounce our ring, and we get to keep Teferi around. You kind of want to deploy Narset to stop Theo's ring, but I don't know you have enough mana for that because you need to answer yours first and foremost, or you will just die to the trigger. But we have free spells. We have multiple forces. We have Solitude. We have cover.
Yep. And the counter spell too is picked up on the few, hard spells we have. Like, so there's a land for turn. So it is possible just to go Teferi, unsummon the ring, replay the ring as well if Dykman wants to go that route. So, but if he does that too, Goblin Bombardment's in hand for Theo. And then the moment he gets priority, bop, bop, bop.
You need to have the force ready to go for that because otherwise, it's too much trouble. So, but we have force and negation for bombardment. We have, One Ring would turn off Flage. And that means you don't just die to the Flage if Theo goes that path. And then you have Counterspell if/when you get to untap from there. So we have a lot of those problems solved. We're riding the line there. Now the question is, like you said, extra bombardments are a disaster. Just Theo presenting a bunch more creatures could be bad, but I think we have another Wrath. We have a lot of the problems solved, but being at 1 means there's no room for mistakes.
Yep. Even some of Theo's cards like Dreams of Steel and Oil here, which normally, they can catch the One Ring, which is nice. They aren't the greatest though sometimes as you start getting going, but with Dykeman on so few life points, it might actually be nice to remove something like a Solitude, or if the One Ring had been drawn, from Theo's perspective, it gets bounced, but sometimes you draw a ring off your bounce and you're like, dang, I wish I could have just spent 4 mana instead. Anyways, Dykeman thinking through the turn, he had to figure it out what exactly he wants to do here.
Found another Solitude. You would love to get one of those in play to be able to start attacking with it and gaining some life back and get, kind of getting off the ropes, as it were. But I think for right now, to cover the Flage the best, you need to just put your One Ring into play. And I think that's what he's going to decide to do.
Yep. And it's a One Ring we cannot activate because we will lose the game. We're going to need to gain some life. Post-board, Dykeman has consigned to memories that he's been bringing a lot and using to save himself.
Yeah, he uses those just more on his own One Ring triggers than anything else. Now, obviously, Cosmic Rebirth is a way to gain life. You have Solitudes that have life. Like, you have ways to gain life in this deck, but none of that's really set up to go right now.
Dykeman, please put the card that's face down with the other ones and just have the one Solitude.
It's a
open.
trap. It's a trap card.
Yeah, I'm so curious as to what it could be.
What are we doing? Pick up your card. Also, we're getting close to hand size limit. That's just going to complicate everything.
Okay, I think what's happening now is Dykeman moves to discard, so Theo can't fetch Surveil, is sort of what's happening here. Once you agree to go to discard, you can't take any actions. That includes fetching. And the One Ring, that's an action you can take immediately. 1, 2, 3, 2 lands, I think an Ocelot Pride.
Well, you can cast spells, so that's a start. Better than last turn. A lot of cards in hand. I mean, obviously, you just play a bunch of bozos and hope that eventually it works. I mean, Dykeman's at 1, so I think the way you start is Goblin Bombardment. That's just the card you lead on every time, because then removal spells are bad, and also it's just the card that wins you the game. And you can't use any discard spells, so maybe you want to wait a turn, but I don't know that that's a good idea. How many more times is Steven Dykeman going to have to tap out? I don't know. Not many.
Yeah. And there's also open information on the bombardment. Now, Theo might be thinking, maybe I don't want to walk into Force Negation. Remember, this is open deck list. And I'm sure players have talked about Dykeman's deck. We talked about before, Theo played against his teammate Andrew Ellenbogen while Dom and Dykeman are playing. It wouldn't surprise me if they maybe said, what do you do in that matchup? Is there anything you really care about? And maybe chit-chat a little bit about that and came with some plans. Getting the guy to slow us down 2 means that if the bombardment hits, it's now lethal. It shoots you. So the Solitude would have to come down before that if there wasn't an answer to the bombardment.
Right. And now we do know there are forces for this bombardment. Bombardment's so good in this matchup. We saw it be so critical to Theo's plan, despite Dykeman finding a way around it to live at 1. Really, the game for Theo right now is about, can I get this through? There's a lot of other stuff I can do that doesn't matter as much. Amped Raptor, Guide of Souls being among the mix. You have just a bunch of Moby creatures, all of them lethal threats, all of them cards Steven has to answer. How can you make it to where bombardment actually works? And so choosing to wait, I think, makes some sense. Obviously, again, every threat's lethal, and you couldn't go for it now necessarily anyway. So make Steven continue to answer the board and really just try to punch through this bombardment. But that's kind of what this game is about, even though there's a lot of other stuff going on.
Theo using his energy token for when he won our event with Nadu, went undefeated through the Swiss, did not lose a game. Now going to play the Goblin Bombardment that's face up for both players. Theo's like, do you have it? I can beat 1 Solitude by having 2 creatures in play. I couldn't beat the Force. You see a little smile there. He's like, all right, that was good. And now Dykeman's figuring out exactly what he wants to get rid of. Couldn't quite see exactly what card to get rid of there, but Ocelot Prize the follow-up from Theo. That's going to gain a life, gain an energy. We're going to go to the end of turn. The City's Blessing isn't something you can ever lose, so Theo having it earlier means he has it now. Means we're going to get extra cat tokens, extra life. You see Dykeman rub his hands together. He's feeling pretty good about things, but can he go the distance?
This is exactly what you wanted to line up. Obviously, I'd feel a little bad about Theo deploying more spells if he didn't have the One Ring in play at 3. But as it stands, you could just afford to put whatever you want in play. You have so many cards coming that, getting an extra card Wrath doesn't actually matter. And you'd rather just have more threats to where just a hard cast Solitude isn't good enough as far as saving you for a turn.
All right, and we have Narset here. If we find Days Undoing, that will get rid of the cards in the graveyard for Theo along with his hand. Big look, the One Ring's found. That's going to buy Dykeman at least another turn.
And Rathus, guys, if he wants it, he just has it. Oh man, these draws have been clutch with him at 1. He needs it every time, has done a good job finding it every time. And I don't know if Steven Dykeman's going to win or not, but the fact he is still alive right now is a testament to why he was your 2023 MVP and 2023 champion, as he's looking to win this match and do it again. Now, of course, he has to get through Theo, someone who had a very dominant run through the tournament he wanted to get here and this tournament. So much on the line here. And Dykeman, I mean, again, living at 1 here is just incredible. A lot of players would have lost this game a long time ago.
Yep. Theo knows
Drew
about the
card
in hand.
Speaks to casting another One Ring if you're willing to do that.
Nothing Theo can really do in that regard. It's going to hit with the protection.
And this is juicy, right? Because it means your Wrath gets even juicier. I mean, what is Theo going to do with this turn? Is he going to put Flage in play? Probably not. Is he going to deploy more random stuff just to not have to move to discards with the One Ring? Probably. And so your Wrath just gets more things.
Yeah,
now,
and
Flage
it's
is still a problem.
Yeah, Flage is a problem in the long term, and we just drew another one. And we can also fight over these planeswalkers here for Theo. So we might be able to pick apart these things, which are causing some minor headaches, Theo wishes that, like, hey, if I had a card like Lightning Bolt, not on my deck list today, but could be a thing where I want to fight there. Can't do that with Teferi and play to bolt you when you're kind of keeping me under the ring protection. Theo's going to size it up. He has 6 energy already from the Guide of Souls. Has a 1 ring activation as well if he wants it for 4 new cards.
I mean, this is where I think if Theo doesn't have the One Ring, Dykeman wins easily, but that's the true of a lot of games of Modern right now. If somebody didn't have the One Ring, I would win easily. Yeah, of course. That's of course true, because the One Ring is just so good at what it does.
Narset's still in play. No card draws there. Theo activated a little bit of a misstep
had
there.
Answers to it and didn't cast them first. Oh,
yeah,
no!
I think Theo, I think he got a little in his head there, planned out his whole turn, but started on the wrong Planeswalker. I think he was thinking, I'll get the Narset draw cards, then kill the Teferi, but said, I'll kill the Teferi, and Dykeman let it resolve. Not the end of the world. It's something that Theo can come back from, but it's definitely going to matter. As we're going to tackle everything here, I'm curious if Theo will grow this Ocelot Pride with the Guide of Souls, giving a little bit more life.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems that Theo is actually going to start to have is this One Ring is going to start really chunking away at his life. As he looks really the first major expression I've seen. Theo been very calm, cool, collected as he's cut through this tournament. There, really the first mistake, and maybe it'll be good enough. I don't know how much it's actually going to matter. A lot of Flages in the leftovers for Theo, and those are really the big question mark for Dykeman. How do you cover these Flages? You're running out of One Rings in your deck, and with the Planeswalkers answered, you're not untapping with a bunch of stuff either.
Yeah, I was curious if Theo was going to use the Static Prison to go after the One Ring to play around Teferi bouncing the One Ring again. Looks like he's just going to let this happen. You can tell he's a little frazzled, but he did do a good job of recovering there. Theo knows he has the rest of his life to hate himself for that misplay, but only has today to win this play.
The rest of his life, huh?
Greg Sassler, do not tell me you have not remembered the mistakes you made.
Oh yeah, I got one in the chamber that's tough. I got one that's real tough. Just
who hasn't?
A classic case of what are you doing? And in this case, I think, like I said, I don't even know that necessarily it's a game-losing mistake like many of these, lifetime remembered mistakes, the ones that keep you up at night.
For Theo, it is. He doesn't make mistakes. That's the thing.
Everybody makes mistakes.
True. As we are going to see a Lord revealed channel, go find an island, just making a land drop here. This might be a spot where Dykeman has to activate the One Ring to try and find an actual answer long term. Because remember, he has an answer for the board, but not the Flavian Graveyard. And Dykeman knows too, Theo maybe has a Flavian hand, and if he doesn't, he's going to see 6 cards between the One Ring activation and the draw for turn. So a lot of chances for Theo to get a little bit of reach here. Dykeman needs to stabilize this board. And this is, why this deck is so good. Dykeman built his deck to beat the Mardu/Boros Energy deck. Mm-hmm. And it still is presenting all these problems.
Lorien revealed. I mean, again, we're just digging. And it's like, he's done a good job weathering, right? Like, you needed to do all the things he's done to stay alive. And he has a Wrath. Like, he has answers to what's on board now, but again, the problems are just compounded. There's multiple Flages you need to check. The One Ring is still in play at a high number for Theo. There's so much that you need to slog through, and Theo's the one that's drawing a bunch of cards. Well, sometimes. He's the one that's normally
and the One Ring number 4 was found. Remember, we got one
and rebirth for another one. What?
Right, those are going to the
okay,
bottom of the
it's
deck.
not
Yeah,
right.
it's
That one has to go to the bottom, so he has it for later. But he has all the options. Is still the point.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, all the options in the world. We get that card redraw there. Remember, Theo does have a second Goblin Bombardment in the deck, so if we find that, we're going to force a force negation here from Steven Dykman if he's going to keep it underlocked. Now, we know that Dykman is going to go for this ring because if you're drawing a card, you're playing the ring. Otherwise, you might lose to your trigger. Who knows? And you see Theo smirk there a little bit. He's like, all right, ring on ring. And it's going to be a passing of the turn. Theo's going to lose 4 life due to that bird encounters. Heavy as the head that wears the crown. Also, I don't think Theo's actually drawn a second ring. So in other types of matchups, Theo would be in like weird trouble. Anyways,
yeah.
Draw for turn. And I doubt we're going to see Theo activate the one ring in response to this Narset ever again in his life, let alone this game.
Yeah, I think we're gonna successfully take this Narset Part of Veils off the board before we activate this One Ring again. And when we do, that's 5 cards. I mean, that's the real problem here. Dykman would have loved to have had the mana to do all of this and also Wrath the Skies in order to try to protect the Narset, because then you can kind of force spells and do a lot to keep your Narset in play. Leaving all these creatures in play, even though you have protection, still leaves Narset vulnerable, which means 5 more cards coming for Theo means he gets to refill again with a bunch more cards to try to kill you from 1. And he has a lot of cards that do that.
He found the bombardment.
Oh,
all right. I think Theo has a very sick line here, Drake. We can play the bombardment if it resolves game. We also have this Gigantha, which will force more of a tapping out for the Wrath of the Skies. Does Dykman have it? He's looking at his hand a little bit here, and he does the force negation.
He does have force, yep.
That was the
one thing we knew about that one earlier. So he's had that cover for a while, but look at the leftovers. A couple Wraths, a Solitude. None of that does a good job covering a Flays GTP.
Yep. And, I mean, Theo has this Gigantha that is just a lot of mana. Like, it takes a lot of energy to kill. And I think
it's true.
Figuring out, like, okay, if I static prison, like to hit this one ring so Teferi can't unsummon bounce, is that actually good? Shadowy Backstreet, I like this. Get a little surveil action. See what the top card of your deck is.
It's so funny to think you need the selection. You're just tapping a card to draw 5 a turn or whatever.
Listen, we're playing big games of card advantage here, so that's what ends up mattering are the little things.
Games.
Big
games indeed.
Big game, small game.
Static Prison. I mean, I think he's really thinking between Static Prison and like you said, the Gigantha to make the Wrath of the Skies worse, or just Static Prison to kind of take care of the One Ring, stop the shenanigans that have been happening. Now, of course, he does get a card for his trouble, but at the same time, I mean, we have energy to pay for this forever.
Yeah, that's not going away by those means. That's going away by Wrath of the Sky means. And, it's something that like makes it a little harder. Theo has a lot of burn via the Flage and cards like that, but also, needs to just have a turn to actually start shooting them at Dykman, right? He keeps finding things. All right, Dykman draws a Solitude, has Wrath of the Skies, needs to do it for at least 1 if he wants to kill the prison, 2 for the Raptor. That's going to require 4 mana because Dykman has no other way to develop energy in his deck.
Yeah, I mean, you have plenty of mana. You've done a good job making land drops every single turn. So I think that you're going to want to get the Raptor too. You're going to want to get it all when you start having to cast these Wraths. And now the plan is, okay, what do you do about Flage? That's just constantly going to be the question mark.
I think we might see Solitude, your Flage, Solitude, my Solitude.
Yeah, pitch cast first Solitude on your Flage. The sack turn on his back, hard cast the Solitude to get yours, get 3 life, and then try to start attacking. Now, I mean, Theo has just 99 cards in hand,
yeah.
So like, what there's still so much to fight through. But I mean, this is the way you stay alive. You have to keep doing these things, or you're just dead. So that's what Steven is gonna do.
Yeah, and Dykman
start getting life. Yeah, I like this. Let's draw some cards.
You got to have something good if you're gonna win. And he draws Orum's Chant.
Orum's Chant?
Now,
are you serious?
Can Dykman get out of this here? Orum's Chance, and you see him. He knows, okay, that was a good draw. God. Remember, too, Dykman has no more than 1 ring, and that's what Theo's checking. He's like, you don't have 1 ring, right? I dreamed of Steel and Oiled 1 away. There's 2 there, 1 in exile, 1 in play. That 1 ring is staying around. We're picking Kahira up. That's because I think, Drake, we're going to be using that thing to pitch cast.
Yeah, we need the white cards. And now Orum's Chant, obviously no spells, no attacks. Now, can we start just trying to kill Theo with his own 1 ring?
I think we could try. Theo's going to fall to 10.
Another Flage picked up, but you just can't cast him.
Yeah, the land
down to 10. Of the turn. Needs 2 more turns. Another Orum's Chant might be it. He needs to gain some life here on upkeep, but if he finds another Orum's Chant, that might just be it. He has all these Flages, you can't cast them.
All right, Solitude's being cast is all in response to the 1 ring trigger here. Dykeman's hand, Solitude, Kahira, Wrath Disguise, Land, second Solitude. If he had one more mana, he could have solituded the Solitude and not have to just pitch cast, but it's where we're at. And for Theo, Drake, he has Galvanic Discharge. He can kill that Solitude. Dykeman's going to die here.
Yeah, it's other target creatures. Yeah, there's no way to line this up in a way that works. So he will just die the Galvanic Discharge.
Yeah, and so that's going to resolve. Theo knows it, and Theo can finally play on Dykeman's turn the whole game. Dykeman has not allowed Theo to play on his turn. These removal spells are rotting in Theo's hand. He cannot wait to Galvanic Discharge this. He just has to let Dykeman pitch a card, and Theo
needs to draw cards in response. Dykeman can find a counter spell. Is there only one discharge, or are there two?
There's two discharges. Theo can also draw with his One Ring if we get into a counter war. Dykeman's going to take 2 damage now. Draws a land. Draws another land. And that does it.
He dies! What?
All right. The One Ring kills Steven Dykeman. With great power comes great responsibility. That's another set coming into Magic in the future. But right now, we're in the present. Theo up a game, Drake, in his bad matchup. Remember, Dykeman said, built my deck to beat Energy. I'm here to play Energy. Let's do this. Theo said, Energy's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty good. And it's also, I mean, that was a pretty good draw. A lot of things went his way. The bombardment really disrupted a lot of Steven's plan. But I think if you want a big takeaway from that, obviously both players are masters, but Dykeman being able to stabilize when so much went Theo's way, and really he got close to stabilizing. He had a plan. There was a path to victory, even despite everything. That is pretty tough. I think that speaks to exactly what Dykeman was saying when he said the matchup was good, because it looked like Theo should have won that one easily, and it was anything but easy.
Yeah, and also reminds me of an old saying, Drake, as we pull up these sideboards to talk about these players might do. There's no fail rate on Grizzly Bear, and there's no fail rate on these little 1/1 friends that get in there. But Azorius Control's got a sideboard. Let's see if there's anything we even won here, as we did tool our main deck for it. We have 4 Consign, 3 Mystical Dispute, 2 Doan Veto, 2 Isochron Scepter, 1 Narset Part of the Veils, 1 Wrath Disguise, 1 Days in Doing, and the Kahira Companion.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the big problems in this matchup, the best cards on the other side of the table from you are Flage and the One Ring. So you're going to want cards that cleanly answer those. Now, there's not a ton of exile effects here that you aren't already playing with. So instead, what you're going to reach for is the other stuff that answers all of those cards. So cards like Consign, you can do things like, check the One Rings. You can also check all the ETBs and stuff that are going on, like whatever, Static Prison, you can catch that. You can catch the Flage if it's key. It has enough targets that I want some number. I don't know that you want 4, but you were going to want some for sure. I think things like Narset shutting down the draws, that can come up. And the Wrath of Disguise obviously was a card that looked really good. I think you're probably going to want the second copy of that as well. But these are slight adjustments. You have to respect the fact that Steven Dykeman built this deck to beat Energy. His main deck is well set up. He's not going to want to make a lot of sweeping adjustments. And so as a result, like I said, I think you might want some of this stuff, especially some of the cards that you already have in your main deck that you know are good in the matchup, and go hard on that.
Yep. Let's check out the other side there. Hopefully, if you're a Theo fan, we don't get Scepter chained. But from Theo's sideboard, we have 3 Blood Moon, 3 Stony Silence, 2 Dreams of Steel in the World, 2 Exercise, 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Fatal Push, and 1 more, the One Ring, along with our Giganta Companion.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about the same thing. Your best cards are your best cards. You want more of those. So bring in that the 4th copy of the One Ring. The Thoughtseizes are obviously excellent. You're going to want those. I don't know that the Dreams of Steel and Oil have enough targets that you want. Definitely don't want all of them, I don't think. But do you want even the ones in the main deck? I don't know. That's kind of Theo's choice. But, Hand Hate's traditionally very good against control. Dreams of Steel and Oil being limited to artifacts and creatures. The ones that Steven has are good. You may not want those. And beyond that, Blood Moon's obviously bad, and you don't really want, I think, Exercise that much. You can bring like 1 in if you're worried about the One Ring, but I don't think it's good. I think I'd rather just keep the good cards good. Bring more Thoughtseizes, bring the One Ring.
We're going to have a land and a pass in turn. I think both players are on 7s. Didn't get a chance to see if they mulliganed here. Surveil, leave it on top for Theo. As Dykeman's deciding if he wants to fetch maybe a Trio, maybe he wants to fetch a Surveil land. Maybe he doesn't want to fetch it all. Maybe he only has a couple lands. We saw at least 1 in hand.
I expect you want to see him surveil here, just kind of posture early. And again, has to be happy not to see more of the Ocelot prides after that snowballing mess that happened in game one. And again, Steven Dykman, he likes this matchup, and I have to imagine he's going to like it even more post-board. I mean, he said he's really set up for it, but he needs it here. Once again, for the second time in this matchup, is required to win both of the sideboard games. Cannot, in fact, lose another game for the rest of the tournament, the rest of this match. This is it. This is for all the marbles. He cannot lose again. So, maximum losses, I suppose, is what he's set up to do if he can pull it off. And I mean, like I said, he likes his odds, but needs to actually execute. And Theo made a mistake. Game one, got bailed out and got the win anyway. Can't imagine we're going to see too much of that. Theo is a beast.
Yeah, Theo also holds himself to an incredibly high caliber. It's less about that misplay matter and more that even something like that happened, right? Expect excellence from yourself, and that's what you get. As Theo has both Thoughtseize, Dream Besteal, Oil in hand, and our Amped Raptor, lots of plays available. Looks like we're going to start off with a Thoughtseize here, see what's available. We have the One Ring, Cosmic Rebirth, and 4 lands. But if you're Theo, you can take this Cosmic Rebirth, Dreams of Steel and Oil, the One Ring, it's exiled. You're in a great spot. I have to imagine there's at least some other black source in our deck besides the Surveil land from Theo with the fetch in hand.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. You would have now, it's tough to line up because you would expect more spells in hand, because like what you want to do here is Thoughtseize, see that there is a target for Dreams of Steel and Oil, and then take it there. So I think that, yeah, like you said, that's what we're going to do here. And looks like we're going to we're not going to shortcut.
Yeah, looks like we're playing it and then figuring out what we want to
Oh, okay, I see. Right.
Yeah, it might be a spot too where, yeah, because Dykman could fetch a response. I don't know why he would, but he could. And now they're all gone.
Now all the spells are gone. Dykman on all lands, hoping for the top of the deck. So yeah, this is tough for Dykman. It's in a spot now where Thoughtseize gets to get the only other spell. Dreams of Steel and Oil gets to get the last spell, and now you're on no spells. That sequence lining up perfect for Theo, where in a lot of spots, it might not. You're doing this just to even see if there's a target, and there definitely was. And that's great for Theo. Awesome exchange, even though we're not necessarily putting pressure quite yet.
Get the Surveil land here for Dykman.
A great one if you're looking for spells. You get a little bit of selection. That's exactly what the doctor ordered. I mean, speaking obviously to the strength of the Surveil lands and playing off-color ones for your Prismatic Ending and for just a little bit extra value.
Prismatic Ending.
Been a spell, huh?
Yeah, I like this from Dykman. Even though he doesn't want to flag at lands, we got to find the right kind of spells right now, right? We're in a bad spot. One spot removal spell isn't going to answer it. We're going to play this Plains. We have the Cycle to Triumph 2 available to us. So that's kind of a nice spot there for Dykman as we pass over to Theo. Draws another Static Prison, plays his land for turn. Going to develop the Goblin Bombardment here while he knows that there's less chance of having counter magic.
Also awkward too, right? I mean, Steven just binned a Prismatic Ending. Well, that would have lined up nicely against the Bombardment. So now we don't have access to that. But like you said, we need to find the right spells. And I don't know if Theo necessarily has. We've seen this posturing from the Energy deck before, though, where they kind of can take this mid-rangey game where the first thing they deploy is Bombardment, and then everything after that's good. So it's a very big pivot from game one. Again, remember, Theo's all about these decks that can take multiple paths, these pivots. He's all about those, identifying those, and executing on them. He does a great job at that. And that's what's happening this game. The hand hate into Bombardment, and now all your creatures in the future are good. These prisons have no targets right now, though. It's kind of the awkwardness of leaving Steve with no spells. But as Johnny, I think that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I would say we have a Johnny and Amped Raptor. Two very powerful cards. A Johnny going to come down.
That right. Do we want it now? Do we wait?
It's an interesting spot, too, because if you do flip it now, you get to make another cat, which is great. But if you get got, then you're left with nothing. Theo decides to wait. No reason to rush. He knows Dykman's going to play a million turns against him. And having this Planeswalker could be a way to fight through the Aurum Chant and Scepter lock.
Yeah, you exactly nailed it. What's the rush? And I think we're going to see a lot of patience here from Theo. Like I said, in taking a posture where he feels comfortable with the grind, especially with Bombardment still in play. You can take that action at any time. And of course, you're going to be set up well for the 1-for-1 exchanges or even 2-for-1 exchanges with things like Wrath that Steven wants to make. You're set up well for those with Bombardment still in play. So, taking this patient posturing, I like a lot. And Steven, knowing that Theo is taking a patient posturing, has time to do some surveilling, cycling, and all these things that he's doing to try to find spells.
Yeah, and you see Steven thinking about it here. And he knows his deck has the capability to beat energy. He's done it before. He built his deck to do it. but the energy deck is able to attack from so many different ways, and it's never truly a dog unless you're just playing, incredibly fast combo. But even then, cards like Thoughtseize give them a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of discard spells, full 8 represented in Theo's deck total. Not sure if he has all of them in this matchup, but yeah, I mean, having access to that heavy discard spell is just a big deal as far as beating combo in Modern. Now here, there also has some double value against control. Discard spell is quite good there for clearing the way for your spells, and a good spell available in hand for Theo in the form of Flage and actually Ant Raptor. Both those spells quite good in this matchup.
Yeah, Theo, taking a second here to think about, do I want to play my Amp Raptor first, maybe hit something nice? Do I want to attack? What happens if there's a Solitude? Just fully thinking through the turn here. Picked up a Sacred Foundry for the turn. That'll be nice as the game develops. Maybe even allow for a double spell pretty soon.
And that might be the reason to reach for just like kind of a mopey Flage. You can get a little bit of damage going. I mean, you're not getting value. We saw Flage like kind of represent the ability to clear planeswalkers and stuff. But yeah, I think that's the thought here is he wants to deploy Antrapper. I think that's a better card to play now. Obviously you want to get attacking with it and all these things. But with only no extra energy and the potential to double spell later, it's appealing to wait as well. Does decide he needs to do it now.
Hits another Ajani, and this is massive. He's going to cast this. That's going to create another cat. Legend Rule will kill the Ajani, which will flip our other Ajani Drake. And now we have more cats.
Yeah, I guess it does. If you get to flip the other Ajani right away, and that is appealing.
And now, because we have red permanents, we're going to tick up and be able to start shooting Dykeman's face. And we're able to play around Solitude all through that. You see Theo sit up there. He was kind of posturing before, kind of like, okay, I'm in for the long haul. He doesn't feel that anymore. He's coming in, make another 2/1 cat, hit Dykeman in the face for 4. Now the question is, are we going to attack with our other cat token?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm curious about, is why do we do this pre-combat? I would have liked, I think, to attack first, maybe. Maybe that's just blowing you out to like what could be a face-up hard cast Solitude.
I think that's the line there from Theo was going to play on it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, either way, we still have a big attack force. The extra points of damage are unlikely to matter. Now, Dykeman has a lot of these, your favorite, the face-down trap cards there on his side of the battlefield, and going to take a look at those and decide if any of them have any text. Only one land that we knew about left over, so he's done a good job hitting his land drops. It's time. You need to start doing things about what's on the board, or could be facing down lethal as soon as next turn.
Yep, and you see him thinking here, and I have to be wondering if Dykeman's thinking, how could it all come to this? I got to the matchup I wanted. Last game, I ran him for so long with so many cards, and now I drew a billion cards. I did a bunch of things. Narset's coming down. Remember, Theo, not as worried about Orange Chant as we have been in the past because our Johnny will just keep on ticking up, keep on shooting. And
yeah, Orange Chant looks worse than it has before. I mean, obviously having your attack split between this enchantment that represents your creatures being good against removal, as well as a Planeswalker, is just a lot. That's a lot for any control deck to fight through. Now, obviously, cards like Wrath of the Skies do a good job answering multiple problems at once, but obviously, if Steven had one of those, I think he'd be casting.
Yep.
And there is one.
Wrath of the Skies. All right. Counterspell to Fair, the other pickups. A lot of options now. We don't know what the 3 cards face down for Dykeman are. He's been kind of drawing them and hiding them from us. But you know what? At least there's in 2 different piles. That's fine with me. My whole thing is you have a hand and then you have the piles. That's where I'm like, what's happening? Anyways,
that's where you draw the line, huh?
I do. Dykeman doesn't have the mana to cast Wrath of the Skies. We left up our Hedge Maze. Now, I believe does have a land for turn. So could use that as there. And you see Theo, he's starting to fidget a little. He feels pretty good about this spot. Knows there aren't too many cards that can go 2/2 sideways for him.
Yeah, especially from this spot, right? Even if we find Wrath of the Skies, even if we cast it, Bombardment's still in the leftovers, and that plus Ajani is tough. So, really, it's not even clear that Steven wants to cast it this turn. He might have to. I mean, I haven't done all that math. That's for Steven to do, not for me. But, I mean, he's facing down lethal if he does nothing. That's just true. Between Flage and the Bombardment and all that stuff, he could die as quickly as next turn. So the question is, what can you do about the rest? And the answer might just be you have to cast Wrath now.
Yep, I like this. Cast Wrath of the Sky, spend 1 mana, get an energy, even though you might not use it this time, you might use it on the next one. And Theo has Bombardment. Wrath of the
So
Skies
it's
hits.
artifact creature enchantment. So it does
Yep.
not actually do non-land permanent. So we get to keep the Ajani here. A kind of a little important thing to pick out as you're reading Wrath of the Skies there on the screen. It means that you get to keep the Ajani, which means you get to make more creatures. Which means your bombardment is going to go. No, sorry, he's going to stay
There's
because
only
it's only
one
for
mana.
one.
That's right. Yes. And Theo is representing lethal here, Drake. We have the Amphitraptor can attack for 2. We can plus our 0 our Johnny, deal 2. We have the Flage. We have the Golem Bombardment. All Theo needs to do is have these spells resolve, and he's in a commanding position as Flage comes down. That's going to target Steven Dykeman. He's going to fall to 3. We're going to sacrifice the Golem Bombardment, go to 2. If a Johnny's ability resolves, that's going to be game. And you see the fist bump.
And there's the fist bump.
Congratulations, Theo Jung wins, defeating his awful matchup. And you see on his face there, he knows this is going to be a tough one, but he did it. Congratulations, Theo, our 2024 champion here. Did a great job. Dykeman tried to do the run back for the first ever back-to-back NRG champ, but couldn't do it. Only got to the finals. A great finish with some very innovative decks. Congratulations to both of these players on a well-earned victory. Theo is going to be back here next year for our champs again. You know what? We would have seen Theo either way, but now someone else gets the spot. So good luck for them. Sure. Theo's going to win $10,000, and you're going to see him at Pro Tour Chicago Aether Drift here in just a couple weeks. We're going to talk to Theo in just a second for our winners interview. But Drake, I think that really just showed this energy deck was very, very good. Tomorrow we have a big BNR. Who knows what's going to happen? No reason to speculate. But we know this, before that happened, this deck, it could grind through just about anything if it had the right draws, and showed us that in the finals.
Yeah, kind of the de facto best deck, the deck that people pointed to in a lot of spots as being the best deck. I think there was some kind of questions with the Belcher deck and the Brood Scale deck. I mean, a lot of players, there was 7 Brood Scales in this field of 24. A lot less energy. People were very bearish on the whole energy deck strategy. And I think Theo, again, we talked about it a little bit in the broadcast over the course of the matches, but he's always done a good job of identifying when it's correct to play the best deck and when it's correct to, you at least have the leverage. Maybe not correct, but you at least have the space, the room to play what you want to play instead. He did that with his Jund Sacrifice deck, and he's rewarded. He's the champion for it. And I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be a bad matchup. Nice. 2-0'd you. See you later.
Speaking of bad matchup, I don't know if this man has any. Let's head down to Theo Jung. Theo, congratulations, my friend, on winning this event. How does it feel? You got Dom's, you took his birthday prizes from him? Oh my goodness, with the balloon.
Theo, can you hear us? All this shouting from Mason.
I don't know if Theo hears us.
Us?
Theo only hears other victors, and so me and Drake in the commentator with Theo. Theo, can you hear us?
Theo, can you hear us? Theo! He's too powerful. He's too powerful. He wins too much that he cannot hear us.
Yep. Theo, buddy, are you there? Looks like we maybe
the answer might be no.
I think the answer is no. I think we got a little tech check going on. I think that's what's happening here. I think it's a little awkward. I think I got to figure out how to vamp long enough for Norm to fix it. So I'm going to keep talking like this. But I'll tell you what I'm going to talk about is Theo's ability to win a lot of matches.
We'll message the coverage team, and we'll get back to that.
All right.
So poor Theo, updating his friends. And you know what? He needs time. He needs time to answer all the DMs, answer all the messages. And, honestly, an incredible run. I can't say enough good things about Theo. And enough good things about Steven Dykeman. Honestly, I'm pretty, I'm sad for him. He lost. He said he did a lot. He did a lot, even with the tournament structure to set himself up for success. But, not being able to just continue to ride the championship into the next championship, I'm excited to see Steven get back in the streets, battle again, battle his way back into the championship. So tough loss for him. Obviously, this moment's about Theo and celebrating Theo, but I'm excited to see Dykeman again later. Can you hear us now?
I can, yeah.
There we go. We're so back.
Congratulations, Theo. How are you feeling after just winning champs in what was kind of a crazy finals?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I feel like I got away with murder. Things kind of like got away from me at the end there. But, I've been playing Magic all day. Mistakes are bound to happen. And
never punished.
Talking about that getting away with murder there. I mean, feeling blessed there. I mean, obviously the One Ring activation in Narset feels like a moment where you kind of thought about, I'm going to kill the Narset, then draw, then kill Teferi, little dexterity error. But in general, did you feel bad about game 3? Because, Dykeman told us he built his deck to beat energy. And obviously when you lost your matchup in Pioneer, you had to be feeling a little bit of anxiety going into the finals.
Yeah, I did. I played Steven earlier in the Swiss. I think like round 2, and he defeated me pretty soundly, and it does seem like his deck does line up well into mine. And I was really hoping to get match 2 because I feel like my deck has a little more game there, but yeah.
Incredible. And a little bit of a storyline too. You tested with some of the other players, as many do, for this event. And my understanding is your team, the testing team you worked with, had incredible results. All three of you featured in the top four. Talk to me a little bit about that and the preparation, how successful it was.
Yeah. We obviously did pretty great. Three of our five uh, members of the testing team ended up in the top four. Yeah, it was really great to have like awesome practice partners, and I think like we did a good job like tuning the decks that we played. I did go a little rogue. I played three decks, and my teammates played none of the same decks, so I wasn't
Okay.
able to convince anyone. But scoreboard.
Scoreboard
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, so I mean, talk to me a little bit there. You just mentioned you went totally different from your teammates. What made you want to, very quickly play the three decks that you did?
Yeah, so I can start with standard. I realized pretty like quickly that the two decks I wanted to play in the format were either blue black or green red prowess, and then I just like yeah, I played blue black mid range at Worlds, did pretty poorly, kept playing it, couldn't win too much with it, and then I, went to the Gruul side of things, and then I started winning more. Yeah, so
Good
it
reason to
was
switch.
definitely like a comfort pick for
Mm-hmm.
me, and I think the deck's awesome. For Innkeeper's Talent, it's been great. If you play Gruul, that's like the reason to play Gruul. And I really wanted to play four of that card in a field I expect it to be very heavy in Dimir.
Makes
Well, there we
sense.
go. We got it up
Yeah,
on screen for
and
those of you at home.
yeah, and I can talk about Pioneer. I
Mm-hmm.
I mean Rakdos Sack. I always play this deck.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I felt like it was a comfort pick. I feel like I see you always register Mayhem Devil, and you
Yeah,
always are winning with Mayhem Devil.
yeah. So I really love the deck. I love decks that just make a lot of game objects or a little like tricksy and um yeah. Um, but if it's absolutely horrendous, I won't play it. But I think it's like decent enough currently that um, I decided to just lean on familiarity there. Three formats. It's a lot to prep for. Getting one like choice out of the way is um, brings some ease of mind. And yeah, for modern, I played NRG. Um, yeah, that's where I started. That's I think like there's like a consensus that it's the best deck, and although Brood Scale, which was like our team deck, seemed like pretty good to me. I don't know. It's just like I um, vibed with the playstyle of Energy more, and uh, yeah, again, like had very good results with it, and found no reason to deviate. So yeah,
Incredible.
that's how I arrived at my three decks.
Makes sense to me. And like I said, in my opinion, I think all these decks were great choices. Did a great job at threading the needle between playing the best decks and playing what you're comfortable with. And obviously, to the victor go the spoils.
Yeah.
So sick. Well, now that you've won, you're the victor. To the victor goes the spoils. You have a pro tour invite. You have an invite to the championship. Talk to me a little bit about what next year's going to look like. We're going to see you. Are we going to see you at the event still, despite you winning winning this championship and already qualified?
Well, I did buy the NRG season pass for the first half of the year, so
That's what I was
I'm a
getting at. Yeah,
little
I was like,
I'm a little financially motivated to go to all of these events. So you'll
sweet.
definitely see me at a lot of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I've ever seen you really lose at the NRGs. Right? You won the Nadu tournament undefeated, and then you had two losses this weekend. It seems like you're financially motivated to play Magic, Theo.
Yeah. Yeah, this game's been great to me this year. Very blessed to have the results that I did, and this is a very great capstone to what has been amazing year in Magic. So, yeah.
Well, do you want to give any shouts to your friends, family, testing partners, etc. here? The floor is yours. It's all about you, King. You won.
Yeah, so obviously I'd like to shout out my testing group, Max, Dom, Andrew, and Connor for, being like great opponents and giving me feedback on my plans. Yeah, and there were some other people I consulted as well, especially Andre Kleipach for Rakdos Sacrifice. He's played a lot of the deck. He played it in the mock showcase event like last week, and he had a lot of like great thoughts to share with me about the deck. So shout out to him. Yeah, and no, I think that's about it.
That covers it all. Well, awesome. A lot of awesome
For
people
this
there in
tournament
that list to
specifically,
work
but
with.
obviously, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in Magic that helped me get better. I worked with Team CFB for like the PTs and Worlds this year, and it has been a great experience, and I've learned a ton. And yeah,
Great.
Awesome.
Well,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you so much, Theo. It was great to see you this last year to really dominate Magic like you talked about here. Had a great run. We can't wait to see what you do in 2025 and see you back here next year. But now go have fun, man. Celebrate with your friends. We'll see you next year on the series. We're going to wrap things up here and say goodbye to Twitch chat and everybody else because, wow, what a show we had today, Drake.
Incredible. Yeah, it's so sick. A pleasure. It couldn't ask for a better winner. I mean, someone that's truly humble, truly talented, and even better for all of you at home and for us in the booth. We're going to be seeing more of him next year as well. Now, of course, that alludes to what's going on here. That's the end. That's the end of this year on the NRG series. What a year we have had. And of course, couldn't have done it without you all at home on Twitch. If you're going to be wanting to see any of those events that we have going on for next year, make sure you hit that follow button here. And of course, this whole thing wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Ultimate Guard, especially for sponsoring this series and all the great products they make. And then, of course, everything they do to support this stream. It's been, like I said, a great year, a great championship series. Can't ask for a better winner. Worlds, PTs, and now the NRG champion. Congratulations to Theo Jung. And I think that's all we have here for you.
It has been amazing commentating this last year events with you, Drake, Doomwake, Will Hall, so many other people on the NRG series. It's been amazing. I want to give a shout out to NRG and Norm for supporting paper competitive Magic. It is definitely something that is a passion project. And if you want to support, you can follow us here on Twitch and check out the store as well. It is something that we all love, and we're glad we can bring it to you. Like Drake mentioned there, Ultimate Guard as well, helping us bring this to you all. We can't wait to see you in 2025. It is my pleasure to bring you all Paper Magic. It's my favorite thing in the world. I'm glad I got to share it with you, Drake. I'm glad I got to share it with Twitch chat. We'll see you all next year for 2025.
See you next year.